Good morning and welcome to the October 29th meeting of the Riel Community Committee. I'm joined in council chambers by my colleagues, Councillor Matt Allard of the St. Boniface Ward and Councillor Brian Mays of the St. Vital Ward. We're joined in chamber with our committee clerk, Zach Mohan, that's not Devin Clark.
Steve Duddle.
Steve.
Duddle.
And our clerk, Steve Duddle. It is a Wednesday morning, and we are gathered in Treaty 1 territory, the ancestral lands of the Anishinaabe, Ojibwe, Cree, Oji-Cree, Dene, and Dakota people, and the birthplace of the Red River Métis Nation. And the water that we drink is sourced from Shoal Lake 40, located in Treaty 3 territory. I will turn it over to our clerk if there are any delegations.
Two preliminary things. Congratulations to Steve, who I think is now formally Riel planner.
District planner for
District planner, very good.
Congratulations.
Well,
Thank you.
and congrats on that. And also, my new assistant on day 3, Sharon Walters, is here to checking us out in action. So,
Welcome.
thank you for coming.
If we can just get a motion to move the minutes of the last meeting.
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Okay, perfect. And we do not have any registered delegations
We
today.
do not have any registered delegations, so we're going to move right on into reports.
I'll have an item of new business, the motion I circulated last night about adaptive reuse in heritage buildings.
Okay.
Do you want to read the resolved, Mr. Clerk?
Would we like to do the regular agenda
Let's,
first?
yeah,
Okay.
do
Yeah,
the
it's only 3
items first, and then understand that as we move into report 1, Councillor Allard will recuse himself
Right.
for stated reason, just
Conflict of interest?
perceived conflict of interest. Okay. So as he's out of the room. Okay, so the first matter is community incentive grant to Le Petit Bonheur, a daycare in the St. Boniface area. The community incentive grant program is looking for $98,490.09 to be considered by approval of Riel Community Committee for a project in with the daycare.
Councillor Allard presumably has enough CIG money to do both this one and the next one?
I would have to check with community services, but I believe that they would have considered that before issuing.
Yeah, so
We can, but we get those. Give me the
The CIG. Let me
Cheneur,
take
is
a-
it? Or-
Yes, let me just take a look.
I think he's got quite a bit, I think. Hey,
Okay. As of September 30th, 2025, he does have enough
He does.
balance. Yes, correct.
to do both?
Sorry?
Not to do both this one and the next one.
Take a look.
I see him as having 153.
That would indeed create an issue, yes.
do we know if he's in partnership with any other levels of government or other entities, fundraising entities for this purpose?
That has not been disclosed, unfortunately.
Okay.
I'm going to move to lay this over at least
Yeah.
until the end of this agenda, because to be fair to Councillor Allard, I do know, I've heard a lot about the next one, a lot, and I haven't heard anything about this one, so,
Yeah, his balance would need to exceed 218,000.
yeah, exactly. Okay, so I will move, I'll move to lay this over at least until the end of this agenda, and then,
To November 21st, Riel, would you like?
I'm
No,
fine with that, too.
well, do we want to hear back from him? Like,
Yeah,
we can leave this to the end
We
of
can
the
do this sequentially, yeah. So, okay, for now, we'll,
yeah, lay it over until the end of the meeting.
Okay.
Okay?
okay, so,
So move,
So moved.
all those in favor?
I,
Opposed? Carried.
we can bring him back for.
We can bring him back for item
Lindsay
number
Wilson.
2.
think he might be putting some LDR as well into this next one. And there is money from the residents group on the next one, so it's. So Zach, no one registered in opposition on Provencher?
No.
Okay, well then, that does seem,
Opportunity.
that does seem like we can keep both Councillor Chambers and I.
Yep, we should be able to get through this.
Because did we open on Market Lands? Is
We
Chambers
we
out?
opened the file, yes.
Okay, so you're out. Okay. Well, that's unfortunate.
Play musical chairs today?
Well, there are some questions with respect to, well, thank you. There are some questions with respect to the amounts that you're contributing towards both of the project number 1 and project number 2, because we looked at your CIGP,
Yeah.
and it was a bit askew.
Yes, it's 153 left in CIGP and these two together. So we have laid over number 1 until later in the meeting, because I know,
So we get an
I'm
understanding.
familiar with number 2, but I wasn't sure
Yeah.
if you want to do that all CIGP part, CIGP, all LDR, what the hell, so.
Do you have CIGP and LDR that you're combining, or what's the plan?
All right. Well, let's lay
I
for
can
number 2.
Because if you look here, you can see
Number
how much
2
you have in CIGP.
Number 2 is delegated authorities, right?
This one, we would have to waive, this one, the Winnipeg Public Services recommending rejection. So we would have to waive criteria in order to allow it to proceed first to community services. Because it's over the 50% criteria requested.
Okay. Well, I think I just want to move that up because it gets it done. Number 2.
I agree, we've had
Yeah.
this talk, yeah.
So I move to, if I'm in order,
Yep,
so number 1's later,
yep.
Yep.
and I can't talk about it anyway. And number 2, I will move to receive the Winnipeg Public Service recommendation as information, and I would like to instead approve $120,000 to the Island Lakes Residents Group, Inc. Project, which includes basketball, net, and redoing tennis courts.
Okay, so just to be clear on the record, so just that we're not concurring with the Winnipeg Public Service recommendation, that we're forwarding to the Standing Policy Committee on Community Services, that one, that the eligibility criteria for the community incentive grant be waived in this instance, namely, total, the total City of Winnipeg contribution is 50% or less, and that we will be moving the amount of $120,000. And with the subject to the following conditions: confirmation of other funding sources, approval of final plans and specification for the project by the Director of Community Services, and the applicant entering into a formal agreement with the City of Winnipeg. And then finally, that the proper officers of the city be authorized to do all things necessary to implement the intent of the foregoing.
Right, and just for comfort, I think for my colleagues, this is city land. The one thing I'm asking for the waiving of criterion on is the 50% requirement. So it's just like, let's give them the
Okay.
money so we can get
So
the
no
project
ma-
done.
No matching grants.
No matching grants, but it's our land.
Well, the Island Lakes Group's putting in some money.
Sorry?
They also, yes, the timing issues, also there's their money, and there's also potential provincial money, I think, as well, in terms of why the urgency, yeah.
Yeah. Close to my ward, I'm very supportive. Lots of work done here by Councillor Allard and his EA. Belated thanks to Andrew Smith, I think, whose riding this would have been when the provincial money got approved. So yeah, let's go. So I'm happy to support this.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, carried. On tonight, item 3, and I'll have Councillor Allard take the chair. This is an honorary street naming on behalf of Bob and Judy Rowley. Bob and Judy were key elements in the creation of the St. Norbert Farmers Market that everyone enjoys on Saturday mornings. They're also key components in the start of Group Action St. Norbert, a community group that has been critical in establishing not only the historical value of the St. Norbert area, but the preservation of the history of St. Norbert. Bob continues to be present at the St. Norbert Biz meetings, providing key input into the development of the Pembina Strip, which is the gateway to Winnipeg from the south, where people can see the first glimpse of Winnipeg. In reality, the first glimpse of Manitoba, because it was here where Louis Riel had the resistance and brought Manitoba into Confederation in 1867. So it's the preservation of that history that Group Action St. Norbert has been working with other groups in St. Norbert to preserve that history, and then to look forward as a mechanism of looking forward what the community can be going forward. So with that, I'd like to honor them by doing an honorary street naming on De La Digue and Pembina Highway, just acknowledging their contributions to the community of St. Norbert and indeed the city of Winnipeg as a whole.
Okay.
Have you got the De La Digue in the, is that specified in the motion?
It is not, it's now a matter of public record that De La Digue and Pembina Highway will be selected as
Beauty,
the location.
okay, sounds good. All right.
Okay, so moved by Councillor Chambers, all in favor?
Aye.
Contrary carried.
Okay. I'll
Okay.
take the chair back.
Move consideration of one new business item.
All right.
Yeah. Yeah,
Sorry,
so-
you're back in the chair. Councillor.
Yeah.
Okay.
So moved. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, carried.
I circulated a motion last night about, attended a very good heritage conference in Halifax, and perhaps motivated by that, wanted to bring a motion to have the planning department report back to Climate Action Committee on adaptive reuse of buildings. So rather than having a lot more tear downs and buildings thrown in the landfill, instead trying to promote for environmental purposes, reuse of existing buildings, and additionally, other cities certainly doing a lot of creative stuff around heritage buildings and land use incentives to save existing buildings. So heritage buildings, including modernistic, I know I'm quite proud that we got St. Vital Library built in the mid-'60s. We got that designated as a heritage site some years ago. So this isn't just it's my salute to brutalist architecture, perhaps. But in any event,
They'll be pretty good one day.
Mr. Clerk, if you could, a couple of edits suggested by planning staff that I'm fully supportive of. Can you, I think my colleagues have seen, I don't think we need to read all of the,
I can skip to the therefore be it resolved if that's.
thanks,
what
that's
you'd
what
like.
I'm trying to get to.
Sure. Okay, so we have the whereas clauses, but anyways, going to the therefore be resolved that the Standing Policy Committee on Property and Development be requested to direct the Winnipeg Public Service, be requested to direct the Winnipeg Public Service meet with the Climate Action and Resilience Committee and report back in 180 days on the following. 1, promoting the adaptive reuse of existing residential buildings as an alternative to demolition and disposition in the city landfill, including in mature communities and within newer areas as well. And 2, cross-jurisdictional research of heritage development agreements whereby preservation of existing buildings can be encouraged through providing land use incentives.
Great, thank you.
So question, are you only after residential buildings? I mean, there are office buildings that can be adaptively reused towards residential.
Yeah. No, I don't, the intent is to capture what you're saying.
Okay. Okay, so, yeah, so as long as that, you know, there are office buildings that are being converted into residential or commercial buildings being converted into residential, I'm hoping that this would capture that as well.
And at the risk of getting all over this motion and getting into a very long debate, I will support Councillor Mays' motion as proposed. I would also note Councillor Mays in the St. Boniface ward. We do have an example of a building that was deemed to be not historic, but had I guess, the community felt that it was, and the disposition of land included waiting for any project proponents, or there was an RFP, and the respondents were weighed in terms of criteria, including adaptive reuse. So it's happened before. It's just not policy.
I mean, I was quite struck at this conference. There was a piece of land in Ottawa that had basically a campus that was developed in the early mid-'60s, and the federal government's declared it surplus now. The federal government came into possession of it some years ago, and it wasn't, let's just bulldoze the site because it's from the 60s. It's not heritage from, the 1860s. It was like, no, we're going to preserve some of this. We're not going to preserve all of it, but we're going to preserve a lot of it, and we're going to have sight lines preserved. It was quite, there's a lot of work, but 1,100 housing units going in, but still you respect the heritage of the 60s structure. So we'll see where this goes, I guess, but at least it's trying to flag. We haven't talked much about heritage in the Housing Accelerator debate to date, which is in the motion. But I think the time has come to start talking about adaptive reuse to minimize the number of buildings we're throwing in the landfill, and this two different concepts, of course, and maybe it won't all end up in the same report, but at least trying to get some momentum going on this.
So when I think of adaptive reuse, my mind is drawn to the Red River Polytech, where they kept the facade of the building and then built around it. Would that be acceptable, or is it just complete reuse of a heritage building?
Depends.
It depends, yeah, I went to a whole session on facadism, which can be used in a sort of sneering tone, but wasn't in this meeting. It was like, look, sometimes this is what you can get, so you should get it. And I would agree with that. So, I think it's more, it's even, my view on this is it's not just the office building, it's also look, we have this house, it's a single-family house. Can we do something to encourage? And we are trying to do it, let's make it a duplex instead of tearing it down and throwing it in the landfill and putting up something new. Can we encourage that somehow? So, yeah, I think sometimes the facade is all you can say, but that's better than nothing.
Okay. All right, with that, I'll call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Okay.
Do we want to take a shot at number 1 again, then?
Perhaps a
Well,
recess, just
yeah,
to clarify.
I was going to suggest that. I
Even
call for a 5-minute recess. Bio break so we can just get a better understanding of where we're at. Okay. Welcome back to the Riel Community Committee. I think we have direction in terms of how we're going to proceed for item 1. Councillor Mays, if you want to proceed.
Yes, given the shortfall in Councillor Allard's CIG funds given the expenditure under item 2, he would not be able to fully fund item 1, so we will lay this matter over until our January meeting is my motion. We'll see what sort of CIG funding might come out of the budget, and then we can make our decision accordingly.
Sure. So January 7th, 2026 will be the layover date?
Okay, all
Sounds
those,
good.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, carried. Okay, we now stand adjourned until the hearings portion of our meeting will resume this meeting. Good morning and welcome back to the Riel Community Committee. We're about to enter our hearings portion of our committee meeting. And with that, I will turn it over to the clerk to introduce the first item in our hearings.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In accordance with the City of Winnipeg Charter and the Development Procedures Bylaw, the process the committee will follow is the applicant will be heard first, followed by those in support of the application. Next, those registered in opposition are heard, followed by those registered for information. Finally, the applicant may return to speak in rebuttal to comments made. However, no new information is permitted. Please note that when your name is called, it is your opportunity to speak. However, you are not obligated to do so. For a more in-depth overview of the public hearing process and other information pertaining to what happens before, during, and after a public hearing, please consult the City Clerk's Department website. Please note that all public hearings are recorded and will be part of the public record. Should you have any questions after the hearings have concluded, please contact the City Clerk's Department.
Okay, and with that, oh, you got more?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, and so we'll begin with item 1. Item 1 is a subdivision of rezoning at 391, 397, and 401 Provencher Boulevard under file DASZ 27/2025. In accordance with the City of Winnipeg Charter and the Development Procedures Bylaw, this is a combined hearing, and the following item will also be heard at the same time. Namely, item 2 is a variance at 391, 397, and 401 Provencher Boulevard under file DAV 169270/2025D. Please note, communications were received in support of the matter, which have been distributed to all members of the committee. And with that, I will turn this over to the planners.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Good morning, councillors. As noted, this item is a subdivision and rezoning application cross-referenced with associated variances. Subject sites are 391, 397, and 401 Provencher Boulevard. The applicant is requesting to consolidate the lots and rezone from a C2 Commercial Community District to the RMU Residential Mixed Use District to construct a mixed-use building with 3 ground floor commercial units and 45 residential units above. The subject property is located on the north side of Provencher Boulevard between Thibault Street and Nadeau Streets in the North St. Boniface neighborhood of the St. Boniface Ward. The site is currently 3 individual lots totaling approximately 16,800 square feet in area. Each lot contains 1 existing structure. The site is located within the mixed-use commercial policy area of the North St. Boniface secondary plan. The site is Zone C2. The subject property is also located within an established neighborhood mature community designation under Complete Community Direction Strategy 2.0. To the north, we have a public lane, then the Seine River. To the south, we have Provencher Boulevard, and then commercial uses on Land Zone C3 Commercial Corridor. To the east, commercial uses on Land Zone C2 Commercial Community District. And to the west, commercial and office uses on Land Zone C2 Commercial Community District. According to the submitted site plan, the building will be 129 feet in width, 75 feet in depth, and 77 feet in height. At grade, the building features 3 commercial units with about 6,150 square feet of commercial space and a total of 10,650 square feet of storage and flex space. Stories 2 through 6 will contain 45 dwelling units with a mixture of 1, 2, and 3 bedroom units. And the building features Juliet balconies facing Provencher Boulevard and regular balconies facing the Seine River. The site is accessed through the existing public lane to the west with 28 surface parking stalls, including 2 accessible spaces, 1 standard and 1 van accessible space, 1 car share space through Peg City Car Co-op, 15 secure indoor bicycle parking spaces, and designated spaces for the commercial units. The landscaping plan includes 4 trees located along the street edge of Provencher and 12 shrubs located along the street edge of Provencher. Variances are required for the yards, density, parking, and the street edge landscaping. The applicant has indicated that they held 2 virtual meetings with stakeholders and residents during the site design process. As for the rezoning itself, as stated, the applicant's rezoning from a C2 commercial community district to the RMU residential mixed use district. Residential development in the C2 district must meet the dimensional standards of the RFM medium, residential multifamily medium district. In that district, the minimum lot area per dwelling unit is 800 square feet and the maximum height is 70 feet. As the proposed density of this project is 372 square feet per dwelling unit and the proposed height is 77 feet, the existing C2 zoning would not be an appropriate district for the proposed development. For consistency with complete communities and the secondary plan in the area, the proposed development is consistent with the objectives and policies directing development under the mixed-use commercial policy area of the North St. Boniface secondary plan, as well as under established neighborhoods policies in Complete Communities 2.0. Specifically, the proposal to construct a residential mixed-use building with ground floor commercial at the subject location aligns completely with the objectives of the secondary plan, as well as complete communities, as it will help to broaden the range of commercial services located within walking distance to local residents. The applicant has worked to develop a proposal that supports a high-quality, pedestrian-oriented urban development or urban environment and aligns completely with the design-related policies of CCDS 2.0 and the North St. Boniface Secondary Plan. More specifically, the building and site design encompass the following considerations: a strong pedestrian-oriented ground floor design that incorporates multiple small-scale commercial storefronts with large windows, a parking area concealed from street view behind the building, and the building incorporates a high-quality facade design with varying articulations, recessions, and a combination of cladding materials and colors, which help to break up the massing of the building and enhance the overall look of the street edge along Provencher Boulevard. The proposal helps the community context by intensifying land, which currently has a low residential density of 3 units, and introduces new commercial opportunities. The proposal adds a mixed-use building in the mixed-use policy area of the secondary plan, and the proposed development also meets the secondary plan objectives of promoting sustainable development, which is designed to minimize the spatial use of land. For these reasons, the Urban Planning and Design Division is recommending support of the proposed rezoning. This concludes my overview. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions of public service?
No questions for me at this time.
Not at this time.
Okay. In that regard, I'll call upon our applicant, which is Brendan Johnson, as well as Brendan Salico will be joining.
For other submissions,
Should this be in the SharePoint, Council?
would you mind re-forwarding it to the top inbox? Thanks.
So this is
Oh,
close to
that's
the,
not my, that's the best thing. Sorry, go ahead.
this is close to the Belgian Club?
Yes. Yeah, it's not neighboring though. Hey, the street view going?
Yeah. that's right. Took a look, yeah.
That's gonna be a beautiful property,
Yeah, it is.
whatever happens to it. Thanks.
Well, isn't this the Belgian Club?
No, I vision, it's, yes, that's Belgian Club.
There's the, so it's, okay.
Good morning.
Good morning and welcome to Real Community Committee. Could you state your name for the record, please?
Absolutely. My name is Brennan Johnson. I'm a planner at Landmark Planning and Design. I'm joined by my colleague Brendan Salico. And if the committee is amenable, we would like to request that we can share our time to give a thorough presentation.
Okay?
Sounds good.
Yeah, that's
Great.
fine.
Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity to present to you today regarding this proposal at 391, 397, and 401 Provencher Boulevard. We just wanted to start by saying that we are in full agreement with the recommendation of the Public Service. The development partnership behind this project is a medical practice, pharmacy, and the existing ID Fusion software company on site that are looking to occupy the proposed commercial spaces. Affinity Architecture led the site and building design processes, and our office led the planning, stakeholder engagement, and development approvals processes. The site is comprised of the 3 properties mentioned, in total a little under 17,000 square feet in area. The northern boundary is the Seine River, the eastern boundary is the Belgian Club, the southern boundary is Provencher Boulevard itself, and the western boundary is a public lane, and then the Belgian Alliance Credit Union. For background information or context, 2 of these properties, 391 and 397 Provencher, have been demolished due to structural issues. There was a dilapidation report that indicated the structures were structurally compromised and recommended that they be removed. So to address safety concerns, the property owner applied for demolition permits, and the structures were removed in July. And this photo just shows that they have since been cleaned up and backfilled as per city requirements. In terms of the neighborhood context, the site is located in the North St. Boniface neighborhood, which is well suited for a mixed-use development. There are a number of commercial, service, and recreational amenities available for residents. More people in this neighborhood can further support and serve the local commercial businesses that exist. It's well connected by transit and the city's active transportation network, and the site is fully serviced, located within the city's urban infill area. As mentioned, the site is well served by transit. It is located on Provencher Boulevard, which is part of the primary transit network. The frequent express route, the FX4, passes in front of this site, and then the F7 route is within 400 meters as well. So there is transit service every 5 to 15 minutes in this location during peak times. And the site itself backs onto the Seine River Greenway, which connects to various on-street cycling routes throughout North St. Boniface, and then further connections to downtown. In terms of policy context, the proposal adheres to the objectives and policies of the North St. Boniface Secondary Plan for the mixed-use policy area, which includes policies to encourage mixed-use development that create a vibrant pedestrian-oriented Provencher Main Street, to encourage a mix of commercial areas to support local residents, to promote vibrant pedestrian-oriented concentration of residential and commercial uses, and then also to encourage mixed-use developments with commercial at grade and residential above. And briefly, in terms of our Winnipeg and Complete Communities 2.0, there are also several policies and objectives that support a project like this one, which include encouraging compatible residential development to complete communities, to increase the population within established neighborhoods to contribute to their physical renewal and revitalization, and to encourage a mix of housing types and tenures. The proposed design itself is a 6-story building. As mentioned, there would be 3 commercial units at grade, totaling a little over 6,000 square feet. They would have their primary entrance onto Provencher to help activate that street edge. On levels 2 through 6, there would be a total of 45 dwelling units, and that would include a mix of 1, 2, and 3 bedroom units. We are proposing 28 parking stalls in a rear surface lane that would also be tucked under a portion of the building up on stilts. We are also including 1 Peg City car and stall. There would be secure indoor bike parking, and street edge landscaping is also accommodated. And then in terms of the site plan itself, this just helps to highlight some of those things that I mentioned. So they're in the middle of the building, fronting on Provencher, would be the entrance to that commercial space. And then to the west of that would be the entrance to the residential lobby. We've got street edge landscaping proposed where the building is recessed on the west and the east corners. There would be those 3 ground floor commercial units. A little bit hard to see on this graphic, but the dashed black lines indicate the outline of the building above for levels 2 through 6, and then all of the access would come off of an existing lane on the west side of the site. And this plan shows you what the typical residential floor plan could look like. And then we've got a number of renderings just to give you a sense of scale and what this building.
Mr. Clerk, were they in the 10 minutes combined time, or was that 5 minutes?
That's up to your discretion as a committee, Councillor.
How much time do you need?
I can probably do it in 3.5 minutes.
Okay.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Great, thank you. So a few renderings giving you a sense of what the building could look like. So again, emphasizing the setbacks on the west and east corners, all of the glazing and entrances that would be along Provencher. This is a view just looking northwest. The rear of the building would have those full balconies that would face the Seine River, as mentioned, and you can see the parking area tucked beneath a portion of the building. Another view looking southeast. And then for context, just in relation to the existing Belgian club, so colors were informed by the existing building, just to help ensure context and fit. And this is the last view, I believe, looking northeast. In terms of engagement, we undertook a consultation process beginning in September of 2024, where we introduced the project to neighborhood residents and stakeholders. We had a second round of meetings in March of 2025, and that brings us to today's hearing. And in terms of feedback, there were a number of things raised during the consultation process that we worked to address proactively through the design. So related to building design and aesthetics, a portion of the proposed frontage features a 0-foot setback to create that pedestrian main street and continuous street edge, but there are recesses in the building to allow for unobstructed pedestrian movement, street edge landscaping, and to ensure sight lines to the adjacent businesses are maintained. In terms of height and massing, the proposed design features a 6-story building. As mentioned, the height is 74 feet without the parapets, I believe 77 width, which is well within RMU height permissions. And the large commercial space with glazing and entrances will help to maintain that pedestrian scale. In terms of unit type, as mentioned, it will include 1, 2, and 3-bedroom units. The landscaping that is proposed will help to visually enhance the Provencher streetscape. And in terms of parking, there are 28 stalls proposed, designated parking for the CRU spaces. If approved, secure indoor bike parking as well, 1 Peg City car and stall, which can replace up to 13 private vehicles. And then, as mentioned already, the site is located on the frequent transit network, the Seine River Greenway, and there are numerous services and amenities within walking distance of the site. Access will be from the rear lane. Existing approaches onto Provencher will be closed, and due to the proximity of to the river, geotechnical engineering firm Engitech was retained to do an investigation of the site and assess slope stability of the Seine River, and the report concludes that the site is suitable for the proposed development, and if approved, the proponent will continue to work with Water and Waste to meet all requirements. And in summary, we feel this is an excellent proposal. The site is located in an area well suited to support it. It adheres to the policies of our Winnipeg Complete Communities and the North St. Boniface Secondary Plan. It is located on the frequent transit network. The commercial space, which is intended to accommodate the medical practice and pharmacy, would provide additional services to the neighborhood. It would add needed housing units to a neighborhood with available amenities, services, and transportation options, and it would promote the efficient use of existing infrastructure within the urban infill area. And I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Yeah, Councillor Mace?
2 things. There's past
Sewer? I'm just guessing. Go ahead.
No,
Sorry.
yes, that's the second though now. What was the reference to the Belgian Credit Union? You want,
Belgian
is it incorporated into the land, or?
It's not incorporated into the land, but so the Belgian Alliance Credit Union is our neighbor on the west side.
Okay.
And then for the Belgian Club on the east side, the colors, kind of materiality of the building, the look of the building, it just took reference from that Belgian Club to try and ensure context and fit with the neighborhood. So the red brick color, the beige colors, that's what I was referring to.
Maybe you could incorporate that vertical archery thing too, the Belgians do, rooftop. In any event, yes, the second question is about combined sewer, probably more to Mr. Kowalik than to the developer. So, got to be Mission District here, I'm thinking, which has its issues for combined sewer. So, combined sewer issues here. What say you? What's any concerns?
Water Waste has indicated that they don't have concerns with the site. The combined sewer still has the catch basins attached, so they can offset the increase in wastewater flow by doing some restrictions.
Okay, thank you. I have some role in overseeing certain credit unions through a board I sit on, but there's no conflict here. So.
No worries.
So, question for you, are ingress and egress the same lane, or are they separated?
They're the same lane, so all of the access in and out will come from that existing lane on the west side into the site and then back out onto Provencher. And then the existing approaches into the site now for the home and the ID Fusion software company will be closed and restored.
Okay, and there is enough room for a drive aisle and a throat in terms of not stacking on Provencher?
Correct, there's enough room. And as a condition, if this were to be approved, the developer is responsible for installing a turnaround at the end of that north-south lane, just to help improve that circulation.
Okay, and what about out front? There is sidewalk, sufficient sidewalk for pedestrians?
Yes. So wherever there is building entrance proposed, it's recessed so that the door swings, they will open, they won't conflict with the sidewalk, people can move in and out freely, and then the sidewalk would begin. And where there's building that just has windows and not entrances, that would be the 0-foot setback.
And there's no patios on the south side?
There are Juliet balconies for the residential units, but those are the ones that they don't project.
They don't project, okay. Oh, okay, so that elevation piece at the front there, that's the balconies that are built into that?
Right, do we have another rendering you could go to that might show? Yeah, so it'd be flush with the building face.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Any other questions?
Yes, thank you for the presentation. Just a few questions. I understand you've got to do a technical engineer
Yeah.
retained. Is there, I'm thinking about the active transportation that happens like behind the building, and looking for, I don't know, looking for comfort that that's not going to be impacted by the building.
Right, so in terms of that, we don't actually own the lots directly behind. They're city-owned, which is where that active transportation path connects through.
Right.
So there wouldn't be any interruption to that, just seeing as it's not our property. So everything that we would be looking at doing, the shoring, the excavation, would all be within our property limits.
Okay, and you mentioned, you're not new to St. Boniface. You mentioned 3-bedroom units. You mentioned some. Do you have a number in mind?
Yeah, the plan is to have one included on each floor, so there would be a total of 5.
So if that were to be imposed as a zoning condition, that would be agreeable?
Yes.
Okay, 5, 3 bedrooms. And then would there be any objection to mandating all the vegetation be native to Manitoba?
You know,
Personally, no.
I don't think it's a material issue,
yeah, I
but it
think,
would be a nice thing to do.
I think it would be all right. I think the only thing is sometimes the landscape architect will be picking species that can survive in those tight kind of quarters that we'll have there along the frontage. So I think they can probably find Manitoba species that would fit.
They're probably excellent at that job.
That's right, yeah, so.
Okay, so there would be no objection to mandating native plants to Manitoba as part of the landscaping plan?
No, that should be fine.
And then the indoor bike parking, how many bike parkings are there per unit?
There's a total of 15 bike parking secure indoor proposed.
Why not just make it the same number of suites?
In terms of the number of suites, it comes down to a couple of things, and one is just configuring the space with the medical practice, pharmacy, and the software company, also needing room for staff, for break rooms, for storage, those sorts of things, seeing how the shape comes, the space comes together. So there could be opportunities to increase that number, but in terms of the 1-to-1 ratio for secure indoor bike parking, typically when we see that, it's within an indoor parkade, and there's the stalls on the walls in front of where the vehicles park, which kind of gives some of that extra room where you could pick up that space.
Do you have any
Which we don't
builds?
have.
Have you been involved in any builds where you bring your bike to your apartment?
Where you bring your
On a
bike to your
wall or
apartment?
something?
Yeah, one thing actually we've noticed about the secure bike parking is in some projects where we've actually had a lot, like let's say, a 0.5 ratio, so 1 for every 2 units. We've seen that there are a lot of people who would just prefer bringing their bikes up to their unit to keep on their balcony or just to keep in their unit. And sometimes those extra secure bike parking stalls in the parkade, for example, aren't utilized. And then, of course, not everyone has a bike. So that's usually why we try to find that right balance in terms of the right ratio. But in terms of bringing them up to units, that definitely does happen a lot.
Would you have, as you may be aware, I like to create precedent by adding conditions to developments. Would there be an objective to having a nominal amount of an imposition of in-suite bike parking? Like, I'm not talking about the whole building. Like, would the owner or the proponent be amenable to having indoor, in-suite, like as part of the suites? Because as a tenant, I may not install like a bike parking component to my apartment, but if it's there, I'm thinking myself, if I were renting a unit, I'd probably use it, but only if it was there. If it weren't, probably wouldn't get through the whole talking to my landlord about patching up the walls and that kind of thing. I know we haven't discussed prior, so I am putting you, on the spot, but I don't think it would be a big cost for there to be just a few maybe.
Yeah, and I guess the question would be, like, with this, are you thinking like of a separate room, like a closet type thing? Because I know, like, I keep 2 bikes in my apartment, and, you know, I've got one on a rack and then one's on a trainer. So I feel like there's, you know, a lot of avid cyclists who might just prefer, you know, either the wall mount or just kind of the floor rack to bring it into their apartment, but not necessarily having a separate, you know, room or something like that, if that's what you're looking for.
Yeah. So wall mount somewhere
Yeah, I mean, and again,
in like let's just do it in the 3-bedroom apartments.
and would that be, I guess, up to the tenant to, because, you know, I know many cyclists, like, they have the brand that they like and they have a certain way they like to store their bikes. So I just think that maybe, you know, it's definitely something we would encourage, but I'm not sure if it's already pre-built in, if it might not offer the flexibility for, you know, different types of bikes and things like that. But just
Okay.
think it out loud here.
All right, let me think. Like, I've had my own bike like vandalized in a multifamily building in a secure bike parking
Yep.
lot. So, and I know people are putting more and more money into their bikes, and I know people are not likely to install bike infrastructure in their apartment if it means a big conversation with the landlord. Anyway, those things are, I guess, on my mind. For the parking, you're providing a car share, which gives you a credit of, what's the normal amount of parking, and what do you get for the car share?
For the car share, it's usually 13 stalls it replaces.
Okay, so the variance is what?
We are reducing to, can you hand me that sheet?
There you go.
Thank you. So we're reducing to 28 for the commercial space and the residential units, and also the basement flex space. The required floor area works out to 64 stalls. But with that, the basement space wouldn't actually be used by people accessing the commercial units. It would be for conference room, storage, bike parking, but without going through the plan approval and knowing exactly what that space would look like, zoning had to factor it into that calculation. So that added, public service, correct me if this is wrong, but I believe that added an extra 18 spaces for the basement units that wouldn't actually be accessed by the public. It's not increased occupancy, it's not actually related to the commercial uses. It's just factored into the calculation because of the floor area.
Okay, so the visitor bike parking, how many, or is there none?
Exterior, there would be bike racks. We just don't have those numbers yet, as we do have to come back for plan approval. And then 15 secure indoor, as mentioned.
So they would be indoor, not outdoor?
Right.
There would be no outdoor bike parking?
There would likely be bike parking racks in the parking area. We just don't have that detailed yet.
Maybe at the back of the building, out the front of the building?
It could be both, likely both.
Could it be imposed to be in the front of the building?
If we do it that way, and just ensuring that it doesn't conflict with the sidewalk, it could have implications for the landscaping.
Okay. And then that could be figured out, perhaps?
Yeah, I think definitely we do have to come back for plan approval as a requirement of working within the secondary plan. So it's definitely something we could look at if we can shift that landscaping over to get those bike racks in the front and then still have the sidewalk clear.
Well, it'd be nice, I guess.
Yeah.
To actually see the bikes.
Yeah, absolutely.
So there'd be, sorry, how many? Yeah, outdoor versus indoor versus in the back, on the side? Because
Just,
there, we zone cars, but not bikes. I'm trying to zone bikes as well as cars while we're at it.
yeah, no, great question. There'd probably be a couple of bike racks, maybe 15 outdoors, 15 indoors.
15 outdoor, 15, okay. That's for the visitor?
Yes.
15 indoor. Okay, I'm back on my indoor suite. I'm thinking, you know, my colleagues and the administration based on their feedback and any other speakers, of just trying one.
Sure, yeah.
All right, okay. And then one one unit residential, 3-bedroom with three indoor parking, what are they called? Like the wall racks?
3 in one unit? Or,
3 in 1, yeah?
or, oh,
I'm just thinking 3 bedrooms, likely 3 persons.
sure, yeah,
Yeah.
let's do that.
So wall mounts?
Wall mounted.
Yeah.
Okay, 3-bedroom, 3 wall mount, bike parking. Okay, and then I'm thinking of imposing the 15 outdoor, 15 indoor visitor stalls, bike
So
stalls?
just to clarify, that'd be 15 indoor in addition to the existing 15?
I'm looking to align with your plan, but bake it in, so.
Okay, so it'd be 15 indoor,
Yeah.
15 outdoor.
15 outdoor, and I want it visible to the street for the outdoor.
Yeah.
That should work. And
Yeah.
I think like Brennan said, the main thing is we want to make sure that we don't, impede any of the street edge landscaping, which is a requirement.
Yeah.
So just as long as we can make.
I will confer with the public service to make sure,
Okay.
well, to do everything I can to not break the design.
Okay,
I think that's it for my intervention.
Yep, so maybe I missed it, but where have you set up garbage enclosures and snow storage or snow removal?
So garbage enclosure is off of that laneway, and we worked with Public Works to orient it in a way that it works for public collection services. So once that hammerhead or turnaround in the lane is built, the garbage trucks will be able to pull up to those garbage bins and collect. And in terms of snow storage, typically with sites like these, we see removal, so private snow removal services.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, turn it back over to the clerk.
Okay, Brendan, is there,
Great, thank you.
thank you.
sorry, Brendan, are you just looking to speak or are you finished?
Oh, no, sorry, I'm just
Oh, okay.
They were joint.
getting the USB out here.
Sounds good. Okay, next up in support, we have Lauren Sheedy to speak on the matter. Nope, okay, then that concludes those who are registered for support. Just looking, turning to the gallery now to offer the chance to anyone not registered to speak in support of the matter. Noting no one. We have no one registered in opposition. Again, turning to the gallery, I will note no one. And finally, for information, we have no one registered. I'm going to turn to the gallery to offer the chance for information. Noting no one. Okay, and now we can have questions for the public service.
Any other questions for the public service?
Well, I have a list of positions I'd like to make, so.
Okay,
So I'd like one, well, first off, I want to impose 5 of the units be 3-bedroom. I'd like one of those 3-bedroom units to have wall-mounted indoor bike parking. Should I write these down or just keep talking?
Yeah, you can keep talking.
Okay. I want the outside outdoor visitor parking, the 15 that are already part of the plan, to be fronting the street so we can see them. And that be coordinated with the landscaping plan. Is that problematic, possible? I'm just looking, I told the applicant I didn't want to break anything, but I do like to, if possible, set precedent and well, inform the city that's being built where I can.
Yeah. Might be a little tight in the front with the landscaping. I can just bring the plans, see if you want to take a look.
Yeah, well, I mean, sure, yeah.
Yeah.
Certain number?
Like they've got the landscaping here, and that's like an entrance. So like the building is recessed for the landscaping.
Can the landscaping go somewhere else? Can we put it on the boulevard?
On the boulevard?
We've done it before. We had 2 tree well trees.
Yeah, if that's what
Rache, but those are like $60,000.
you'd have to ask the applicant if they're amenable to it.
How many do you think fit there? If not 15, how many? Or can they go on the side of the building?
Oh, like along the property.
Just so people see it.
Yeah, well, this space is about 5 feet, and this space is just under 5 feet, so. Could
Could just
potentially get
integrate it in the landscaping
Done
plan.
that before, Pancho.
And just move some plants.
some- Yeah,
5-5,
Speak up.
5-5-5, 5-5-2-2,
yeah.
5-5-2-2-1. I'll just impose it. I'll figure it out. Okay. Okay, so I think I'd like to impose the 15 outdoor bike parking spots fronting the building to be integrated within the landscaping plan, acknowledging that there will be changes to the landscaping plan with the said bike parking stalls. And we already have the 5 3-bedrooms. And and I want to have native plants as part of the landscaping plan as a condition as well. And that's it. That would be all the things I would want to change from the public service recommendation.
Okay.
And if there's no discussion, I'd remove a motion.
All right, let's go on to motions.
Just have to offer the chance for the applicant
Okay.
to have rebuttal, if
All right.
anything said.
All right.
Okay. Go ahead.
Okay. So is the public service, I guess, ready to help with specific language?
Yeah, I've been drafting it.
Okay, so I'll start moving the motions and I'll need help at some point
Not right, yeah.
Perfect, thank you.
to get the jargon. Sorry, to get the specialized language in there. Don't want to put any words down. Okay, I move that the reports of the Winnipeg Public Service be taken as read.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, carried.
I move that receipt of public representation be concluded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, carried.
I move that the recommendation of the Winnipeg Public Service be concurred in with amendments.
Correct, yes. I'll just read those out if that's okay.
Yes, and my question also is, that these all go to the rezoning? I think so. We can put them all in there.
Correct, yes, this was going to the recommendation 2A, which would be pertaining to the zoning agreement.
2A. Yeah.
Okay, and I'll read those out for the record.
Please.
Okay, let me just find it. Okay, so for recommendation 2A, we're going to have the following new conditions. 2A3, that the development include a minimum of 5 3-bedroom residential units. New condition 2A4, that the required landscaping exclusively use vegetation native to Manitoba. New recommendation 2A5, that the development include 15 indoor secure bicycle parking spaces. New recommendation 2A6, that 15 outdoor lockable bicycle parking spots fronting Provencher Boulevard be integrated into the landscaping plan. And lastly, new condition 2A7, that one of the 3-bedroom residential units include a minimum of 3 wall-mounted bicycle storage racks.
And then that'd be net new. I don't want any confusion about the 15 versus the 3. There's no confusion?
You wanted those 3 bicycle ones in the 3-bedroom unit to be separate from the 15?
Yeah,
indoor?
like net new.
Net new,
Right.
okay. So I would say.
So the 18 altogether.
Well, I think that's clear, though. The 3 that are in the bedroom will qualify for the 15 outdoor.
Outdoor? Or separate from these are indoor, so.
Yeah, but 15 outdoor lockable bike spaces are explicitly 15 outdoor bicycle.
Yeah, oh, I see what you're saying, yeah.
Hopefully we pass this and hopefully we set a trend.
Secure indoor.
We will at the very least give the planning department precedent
Outdoor.
if it gets
This is
from council.
indoor. I believe this is what the councillor
Okay.
understands. Is that,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, let me just reread that for you, the last one. So new recommendation 2A7, that one of the 3-bedroom residential units include a minimum of 3 wall-mounted bicycle storage racks in addition to the 15 indoor secure bicycle parking spaces.
Sorry, I was distracted.
Yeah, I think that's good.
Okay?
So that's the motion as amended, and that be forwarded to the Standing Policy Committee on Property and Development.
All those in favor?
Supporting reasons, sorry.
Oh,
Supporting reasons, it fits the Plan Winnipeg, secondary plan, it's commercial mixed use, it's a beautiful building, fits the surrounding environment, it's come with, work's been done, there's been no resident opposition. I think it's going to be a net positive addition to the area. Those are my supporting reasons.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, carried.
And I move that the public hearing with respect to this application be concluded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried.
Okay. Please note that the committee has made a recommendation on this matter that will now proceed to council. No further representations are permitted on the subdivision or rezoning. All persons registered for the public hearing will receive notice when the matter is to be considered by council. And now for the variance.
Okay, on the variance, I move that the report of the Winnipeg Public Service be taken as read.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, carried.
I move that the receipt of public representations be concluded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, carried.
I move that in accordance with subsection 247.3 of the City of Winnipeg Charter, the variance is consistent with Plan Winnipeg, and any applicable secondary plan does not create a substantial adverse effect on the amenities, use, safety, and convenience of the adjoining property and adjacent area, including an area separated from the property by a street or waterway, is the minimum modification of a zoning bylaw required to relieve the injurious effects of the zoning bylaw on the applicant's property, and is compatible with the area in which the property to be affected is situated, and I will leave my supporting reasons to be the same as the last.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, carried.
And I want to ensure any of these conditions that I had added to the rezoning doesn't touch this. Does it involve this variance part? I believe so. Okay. I move that the recommendation of the Winnipeg Public Service be concurred in, and that the variance be approved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, carried.
I move that the public hearing with respect to this application be concluded.
Good night.
I will retract that motion
Just
before concluding the public hearing.
noticing, I don't know if Mr. Clark's here with us for the next item, but we should congratulate Mr. Clark on his promotion. And I don't know if you're slumming with us for a while longer here at Real, but thank you for your, sir, I don't know if you're here for the next item. Hopefully you are, but if not, I wanted to make sure we got that on the record.
Thank you. Good. Thank you, Councilor Reyes. You're good at that. So I move that the public hearing with respect to this application be concluded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, carried.
Okay. Please note that the committee's decision with respect to this application may be appealed. Should you wish to appeal, information on how to do so will be included in the order issued, which will be mailed to all persons registered.
Okay. On to item 3.
10-minute break.
Yeah, we'll take a 10-minute recess and then reconvene. It's noted that I will not be part of the next hearing, as the hearing was opened in my absence, and I am therefore precluded from participating. Okay? 10-minute break.
All right, thank you for your patience. We'll call today's meeting back to order. One item left on our agenda, a familiar subject matter here at Real Community Committee, the public market lands, also known as the Water Tower District. I think we had opened on this item, but we had not yet heard delegations. Mr. Clerk, I'm taking over as chair, as Councillor Chambers was not here when we started on this item. So do we need to go through the standard introductory remarks?
Correct, yes.
Do we?
If I may. Yeah,
Okay.
for sure. Okay. Item 3 is a secondary plan amendment at Public Markets, lands bounded by Marion Street to the north, CN Railway and Spears Road to the east, CP/CN Railway to the south, and CP Railway to the west under file SPA 4/2025. Please note, communications were received in support of and in opposition to the matter, which have been distributed to all members of the committee. Process committee will follow as the applicant will be heard first, followed by those in support of the application, those registered in opposition, and those registered for information. The applicant may return to speak in rebuttal to comments made, however, no information is permitted. Speakers will be permitted 5 minutes for their presentations. All participants in the Zoom meeting have been muted and will only be permitted to speak when called upon. And at that, I will hand it over to the planners.
So who do we have?
Yes,
We have
I'll be speaking to the matter. Thank you, clerks, and good morning, councillors. My name is Anna McKinnon, and I'm a planner in the Long Range Planning Branch of the Urban Planning and Design Division. I'm here to speak to SPA 4 of 2025, which is an application to amend the Public Markets Secondary Plan. The Public Markets Plan area is identified as Major Redevelopment Site D of Complete Communities. The secondary plan for the area was adopted in June of 2020 and provides a vision, objectives, and policies to ensure the orderly development of the site. The plan area is approximately 222 acres and is bounded by Marion Street to the north, the CN Sprague Rail Line to the east, a low-density residential neighborhood to the south, and the CP Emerson Rail Line to the west. As illustrated in Figure 3 of the admin report, the plan is organized into 3 policy areas. These are the employment policy area, commercial policy area, and higher density residential policy area. Currently, the higher density residential policy area is confined to the western portion of the plan area. The commercial area is located to the northwest, and the employment area, which comprises the majority of the plan area, is located to the east. To limit conflicts between residential development within the plan area and surrounding industrial and rail users, the plan includes setback requirements for new residential development to M3 heavy industrial zone lands outside the plan area and to surrounding rail lines and the Paddington Rail Yard. Concerns regarding emergency access to the plan area were raised by Winnipeg Fire and Paramedic Service during the adoption of the secondary plan. The area is surrounded on 3 sides by rail lines and yards, and access to the area requires travel over one of 3 at-grade rail crossings, as shown in Figure 10 of the report. This means there's a risk that emergency services could encounter a rail blockage when responding to an emergency fire or medical call in the area, potentially resulting in a longer response time. To mitigate this risk, the plan contains policies specifying access requirements and prescribes the maximum permitted density of the area. Currently, the plan permits up to 1,200 dwelling units to be established with 2 points of collector road access to the area and up to 2,000 units following the successful implementation of a rail crossing blockage alert system such as Trainfo. A predictive rail crossing blockage alert system would allow 911 dispatch to anticipate a rail crossing blockage at the time of the initial dispatch and dispatch emergency vehicles from a different location immediately to avoid the rail blockage. The current application proposes to increase the maximum number of dwelling units permitted once a rail crossing blockage alert system is established from 2,000 units to a maximum of 2,800 units. To support the proposed increase in density, the applicant has also proposed the following amendments. These are redesignating the lands shown in Figure 5 of the report from employment area to higher density residential area, reducing the setback for new residential development from the M3 zoned lands bounded by the Sprague Rail Line, Marion Street, and Dawson Road from 300 meters to 150 meters, and reducing the setback for new residential development from the Paddington Rail Yards from 300 meters to 150 meters. The intent of these amendments is to accommodate the proposed increase in density and permit residential development of the lands being proposed for redesignation, as well as on the commercial lands that are currently Zone C3, which are located northeast of the intersection of Dupuis Avenue and Ibrahim and Diallo Avenue. The Public Service is supportive of the applicant's proposed amendments, provided that the additional amendments we have recommended are concurred in. Our recommended amendments are detailed in items 1 through 6 of Appendix D to the report. The additional changes we've recommended in items 2, 3, and 5 of Appendix D are changes we've recommended to implement the intent of the applicant's proposal. Our report also recommends an additional amendment to Policy 8.2.2, which pertains to the residential density of the plan area, as shown in item 6 of Appendix D. Our recommendation would require the establishment of an unobstructed emergency access that allows emergency services target response times to the plan area to be met prior to permitting more than the current maximum of 2,000 dwelling units. The requirement for an unobstructed emergency access was included at the request of Winnipeg Fire and Paramedic Services to address the increased risk of first responders encountering rail blockages when responding to emergency calls in the area as a result of the proposed increase in density. However, we do understand that since the time of the report was prepared, that the applicant and WFPS may have reached an agreement regarding an alternative emergency access solution, which we expect the applicant will be speaking to in their presentation. That concludes my presentation. If there's any questions at this time, I'd be happy to answer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
So there's expectation that the applicant will be providing new information.
Yes.
Do you have an idea what that is and how it might impact your recommendations, or do we want to wait till they present first? Or?
I think it's their proposed changing, so we prefer that they present it, and we're happy to speak to it after they do.
Okay. Councilor Mays?
Can you take me through, okay, I mean, I get why are we here, right? We've dealt with this item many times, so I get the applicant is seeking to increase residential density. They will probably say that they can't market the other stuff, and they can make that case, and that they wouldn't be the first to make that here. By the way, welcome to you and Mr. Platt. I don't know if you've presented to us before. I don't think it's, good job. But take me, just paraphrase colloquially, just speak to me about what are the changes the admin wants here? And you've already touched on one, which is the emergency access thing, which maybe there's been a solution found. But what, is it the setbacks? What are the other City of Winnipeg concerns here?
Yes, so the other changes that we have recommended here is the applicant's proposal, and the only one we had concerns with was the issue of density based on what was received from the comments we received from Winnipeg Fire and Paramedic Services. The other changes that we've recommended to the applicant's proposal were just things we noticed when we were conducting our review of the application. So slight changes in wording that needed to be made in order to implement what they are looking to do at the site. I can go over them in more detail if you'd like. But.
Okay, so yeah, this is Appendix D, right?
Yes, in Appendix D. So if you look to items, it's items 2, 3, and 5 are the
Right.
ones where we've proposed additional changes to implement the intent of what they're doing. So to go through them, for item 3, here they have recommended, or they have requested that the setback be reduced from 300 meters to 150 meters for the lands that are, let me just look at what their wording was. So their wording here for item 3 excluded it excluded 864 Marion Street, which is a parcel which is also zoned M3. So our recommendation would include 864 Marion Street, so that only 150 meters would
Okay.
apply to that. And then additionally, changing it so that it's not from property line of the M3 zoned lands to the property line of the residential parcel. It would be from the property line of the M3 zoned lands to any habitable room or space within the dwelling.
That makes sense, okay. And can you
Yeah, for the
touch on-
others, it was, so item 2, this is also in the commercial policy area. This policy restricted residential development to the east of the Easterly Collector Road, so the applicant did not propose deleting that in their submission. However, that policy would need to be removed in order to enable what they are looking to do here. And then the last one, which is policy 3.3214, item 5 in Appendix D. It's similar to the setback change in the commercial policy area. It should only apply to the M3 lands that are bounded by the Sprague Rail Lane, Marion Street, and Dawson Road. Here, the original wording of the policy specified new residential zoning district shall be set back 300 meters, whereas the policy in the commercial area says new residential development. And because zoning boundaries follow lot lines, that parcel that they're looking to redesignate could not be rezoned unless this wording is changed to state new residential development instead of zoning districts.
And 6 is the emergency business?
Yes.
Okay, good, thank you. I think I get it.
There are a lot of words there. But density and then density, and then there's like setbacks. Are there other categories?
Of changes that we've recommended?
Yeah,
No.
setbacks and density.
Yes, those are the areas where we have recommended wording changes.
Okay, so those are two,
Okay.
high-level concepts. Okay.
Good, yes, all
right.
right. Yes, and I can, see
Oh,
you.
I do, yeah, right. So what does council already adjudicate on this? Like, secondary plan said up to 1,200, as long as there was an emergency services strategy like TrainFo or something like that.
Yeah, so the current density permissions in the plan would be that up to 1,200 dwelling units are permitted with 2 points of collector road access, and then up to 2,000 dwelling units are permitted with predictive rail crossing blockage alert system.
That's already approved?
This is approved. That was approved in the secondary plan amendment, which was approved by council, I believe, in September of last year.
Okay, and today, the number requested
Is 2,800 units.
28?
Yes. With the predictive rail crossing.
Okay. Got it. So this would be this would be net new 800 from
Correct.
the already adjudicated council decision. Okay.
Does this increase then, there is no impact fee, of course, we both voted for it, but there you go. Courts shot that down. What then could the city of Winnipeg, is there a more LDR, more dedication of land, or
They have all.
payment in lieu? The 10% payment in lieu would be higher, I assume, unless this land notionally is worth less than commercial, but what is the impact, what financial impact on, what gain to the city of Winnipeg from the 800 units, other than the general philosophical sense, or property tax revenue sense? Anything other than that? Are we getting park? Are we getting an additional payment in by the developer?
So no additional park space has been proposed here. Parks responded with no concerns to the applicant's proposed amendment.
They're within they have like green space dedicated.
Yeah,
within there.
land would have been dedicated in the previous, yeah.
I have no further questions.
Okay, I have no further questions. On we roll then.
Oh, okay, sounds good. Okay, I'd like to invite the applicant up. I believe it's a team this time with Susan Russell, Jackie Wilkie, and Robert Scaletta will be presenting. Susan Russell, I believe, is joining via Zoom.
Okay, do we have Ms. Russell there?
You
Hey.
do, sorry.
Apologies for the last meeting where we shuffled the order and didn't, I think, communicate that well in advance. So sorry about that. But that's why we're here today, so on we go.
And Jackie's going to start. Jackie Wilkie.
Who was that?
Isn't it? Is that Kevin from our staff? Isn't it? Yes, it is. It's part of the,
It's probably their call.
yeah. Oh, that does, just before you start, quick question to the admin. There were no, the 800 additional units does not trigger any sewer concerns. I think Mr. Scaletta has spoken here any number of times about separating out, pipes being separated out. If there's no one down here who can speak to that, I can ask that to Mr. Scaletta and see what, but,
There's already a big setback taken as, there's an easement, a permanent easement on the property to allow for future waterworks
Yeah.
that were included in the secondary plan.
So water and waste was circulated on the proposed amendments, and they responded they had no concerns pertaining to water, wastewater, or drainage.
okay, thank you. Good discussion. Sorry, Jackie, back to you.
That's all right. Good afternoon, or
Ms.
good morning still. I got a couple minutes left. My name's Jackie Wilkie. I'm with McGowan Russell Group. We are presenting in 3 parts for our presentation today. Myself, Susan Russell, who will be on Zoom, as we know, and then Robert Scaletta. We're going to ask that you guys ask us questions after we're finished our presentation, because we will need the 15 minutes for what we're talking about here today. So I'd like to begin. We've sent in a presentation. We aren't going to read through everything. My portion of this is going to be in discussing the setbacks to the in the industrial lands, to the east. Susan will speak in regards to the rail setbacks, and Mr. Scaletta will be speaking in regards to the density that we're looking at and the connections for the emergency access. So our current plan right now has a central area that was, you can see colored now in beige, to the east of the park. That was existing as the industrial lands, and we're looking at and changing that into the residential. So that's the portion of land that we're speaking of today that we want for the secondary plan amendment. So that includes reduced setback to M1 and M2 uses on the west side of Dawson Road, modification of the area of employment lands to provide residential, increase in the residential from 2,000 to 2,800, and reduce the setback to the Paddington Yards to the residential. So our current plan has the area of residential limited to the west end of the site and extends only partway through the existing park area and pond. Our proposal is to expand that residential area through the center island, as it were, of the development between Ibrahim Diallo and Paulette de Gay streets to have residential on both sides of that park amenity.
Can you just explain, I'm too far away.
Yep.
Probably, but color code, red is higher density or?
Red is, red at the top is commercial.
Okay.
Orange is the higher density residential, and the purple is the employment lands.
Can you just flip back to the previous slide then?
I can.
For a sec. Okay, got it. Yes, the island as you've referred to it.
Yes.
Good, well used, okay.
These are the proposed amendments, just written out. You can read them at your leisure. We are in agreement with the comments that have come from Public Service and are showing the inclusion of the one property along Marion. So with the setback to industrial, we're looking to reduce the setback from 300 to 150 for the lands on the west side of Dawson Road that are used for M1 and M2 uses, which is similar to what is being done on the north side of Marion and also on the south side of Marion. Our setback from the north side of Marion outside of our planning area is 150 meters right now, and we're looking to replicate that on this portion of the, for this portion of Dawson Road. We would still keep the 300-meter setback to the other side of Dawson Road, which includes Darling Ingredients and Maple Leaf, so that we are still keeping that separation from residential, that 300 meters that's in the secondary plan. We would not reduce that at all. So that's represented, what we're asking for is represented by the yellow lines on the plan, and what is existing is with the 300 meters from the other side is represented with the red lines to show that we're the 300 meters on that side.
So is Dawson, I get, between Spears and Dawson, I get a bit turned around.
Dawson is the one that is to the upper right-hand side, where you see the yellow line and the red line parallel up in the air photo. That is Dawson Road.
Okay.
And Dawson Road bends and goes down beside Maple Leaf. So Darling Ingredients is on the bend of Dawson Road. Sorry? Darling Ingredients that you see there, that's on the bend of Dawson Road. Dawson Road and yeah. Prior to making our application, we did have conversations with the industrial area, or industrial neighbors with meetings to discuss some concerns that had been brought up in regards to odor and noise. We feel that by ensuring that we are keeping the setback from those users, that would be the same as what was in the existing documentation, that it would, or existing secondary plan, that we would be meeting that requirement. So that is the end of mine. I'm going to pass it over to Susan to review in regards to the setback to Paddington Yards.
So you still have 40 seconds.
That's okay.
45 seconds on the clock.
Susan will just start it on mine.
I'll get going. So my portion of the presentation, as Jackie stated, will review the proposed reduction in the setback to the Paddington Yards from 300 meters to 150 meters. First, I would like to note that the 300-meter recommended residential building setback in the FCM Rail and Railway Association of Canada guidelines is from a mutual property line with the yard, any yard. The proposed residential parcels that are the subject of this SPA do not share a property line with the rail yard. They are separated from the rail yard by a collector street, Palette de Gay, a park, and industrial land uses. When we met with CN, they noted that they generally have concerns with any proposed residential uses in proximity to rail yard operations due to three potential issues. The first, odor and dust. The second, safety issues and potential for trespassing. And the third, noise and vibration. I'm just going to go through each one of them in order. So first, regarding the potential issue for odor and dust, the Paddington Yards are primarily used to unload passenger vehicles from rail cars and load these vehicles onto trucks in the auto park. There's no significant odor and dust from these activities. The second potential issue is safety and potential for trespassing. This slide clearly illustrates that the proposed residential parcels do not share a property line with the rail yard and are separated by the collector street, Palette de Gay, the park, and also the industrial land uses. And thus, for these three reasons, the nature of the very low speed activities in the Paddington Yards, the fact that the proposed residential uses do not share a property line with the rail yard, and thirdly, that minimum 150 wide intervening land uses between the rail yard and the proposed residential satisfy any potential safety concerns. Regarding the potential trespassing, the existing public markets agreements registered on title require Alexa to install a 1.83 meter tall, 6 foot tall chain link fence along the entire public markets mutual property line with the Paddington Yards, which addresses or satisfies any trespassing concerns. And the third potential issue is noise and vibration. Alexa engaged, which is probably the biggest one. Alexa engaged Dylan to prepare a rail noise and vibration assessment. The map provided on this slide shows that the impacts from the Paddington Yard, the rail yard, on the property proposed for redesignation, are lesser than the impacts to the existing residential designation areas in the plan along the main line and main lines. Also, most of the property proposed for redesignation falls within the Area 2, where no noise mitigation measures are recommended. The only recommendation for Area 2 in the study is the inclusion of a CPCN warning clause regarding the potential for noise and vibration impacts for all residential locations within 300 meters of the rail line. This sign is already a requirement of the secondary plan. And also, although not a requirement in level 2 areas, the secondary plan also requires residential units to be climate controlled with noise attenuation features to further minimize any potential noise concerns. Thus, in conclusion, the public service is supportive of the proposed reduction to the setback from the Paddington rail yards, given the results of the noise and vibration assessment study prepared by Dillon Engineering and the presentation of how we address the other potential occurrences that were identified by CN. And that's it for rail. I can turn it over to Robert now.
Hello. So on the ongoing with the rail, and the one thing that we have that we're wanting changed in the report is clause 8.2.2 C is there it says the unobstructed emergency access. We would like to change it up to 2,800 units may be permitted in the planning area in phase 2, provided that the condition in 8.2.2.2B, two-door terrace, has been met and paved at grade emergency vehicles access road connecting Dawson Road has been established to allow targeted emergency response times to the planning area and achieved. So it's it's emergency access road only. It's not open to public, it's not open to pedestrians, it's not open to vehicles. It's just for emergency access across from Dawson Road to our connector to Spears Road, which is Pullet to Gay, or Abraham Dale, one of those two roads. So that is the question, that's the concern that we have. And also, this development will have every space where someone will sleep will have a sprinkler. So there's no buildings in the residential, they'll be unsprinkled. So we've actually had some townhouse developers come to us say, can we build a townhouse, and they want to build these small pods, we don't have sprinklers. No, everything has to be sprinkled. So that was another, and we addressed that with the fire paramedic services as well, that every building will have sprinklers in their building, so. And the only, again, and you brought up water and waste, Councillor Mays. We actually had this designed for that was passed, but it could accommodate a complete rec center. So our engineers said we could actually probably go up even higher than the 2,800 units, but we have the capacity there for the 2,800 with Public Works as well as water and waste. And then just another thing, the more units we get in there, the more beneficial it is to all the retail development that's going to happen there, because the grocery store, the services, they need to have nighttime population, daytime population in there, so. And then if you go back to our original study with Dylan, there is a 0.00228% chance that all three crossings will be blocked at the same time, which is like 1 in 47,000 years. Our new road system will actually help improve 96% improvement to the access to the North of Marion for fire services and emergency service to get there. So we're actually improving the area north of Marion between the Sprague line and the Emerson line. So that is one of the benefits of our development being done, so. And then I can go back to the original study saying that the chance of all two crossings is under 1%, that all two crossings, they'll always be open, so. It's a 1%, under 1% chance they will both be blocked. So, and then we estimate about 2 to 3 calls per day for emergency services to come to the development. So again, there's not a high probability of emergency services coming there on a daily basis, just 2 or 3 a day. So with that train crossing, probabilities are very low.
Sorry, Robbie, and I'm going to call you Robbie because I called Jackie, and I don't need people criticizing me for calling the women by their.
What are you going to call Susan?
Susie. You just said 2 or 3 a day, but not every day.
No, so
2 or 3 a week?
No, 2 to 3, our estimated calls are 2 to 3 calls a day, emergency services, ambulance to fire trucks.
Okay.
Yeah.
But then didn't you say it's not like they're coming every day?
No, they're coming every day. Well, that's what, again, you might have 5 one day and nothing the next day. You never know. But our emergency services study showed, but back then it was 0.87. That was when we had up to 1,200 units. So now we're going to 2,800, so we're going to over double that. So we have 2 to 3 a day. Okay.
Fire, police, ambulance.
It's an emergency service. I think it was more
Maybe it's just,
ambulance and fire. Yeah, I think it was geared to more the ambulance
Ambulance and fire.
and fire.
Yeah.
Are you,
I'm done.
go ahead.
yeah, just, I mean, when I first started, Sage Creek only had one access. I don't know how big it was a community, but do you have any comparable community that might be of this size that only has, well, the emergency access, maybe starting with that, is that done anywhere, to your knowledge, in the city, to have one dedicated emergency access road?
No, that's.
Not in the city.
Okay, is that new, is that net new information from your conversation with the fire service?
And that was, we also brought up a long time ago as well, like when we did the original secondary plan,
Right, but is it part of the documents, or is it not part of the documents?
It is part of the document.
part of the documents now.
Okay, so it's part of the documents, the emergency access?
Yes. An at-grade emergency access crossing between Dawson Road and Spears, or Abraham Diallo, depending on where that connection
Okay.
point ends up, with a controlled access for emergency vehicles only. So it would not have additional crossing of that track other than in an emergency response situation where there is no other way to access the development, which would happen one in 43,000 years.
Okay, so just to keep everything at a very high level here. So council has said yes to 2,000 with TrainFo?
Yes.
Okay. And is the emergency access new information? I think you've already said yes, but for my
Yes.
edification, yes.
Yes, the emergency access would be new to go from the 2,000 to the 2,800.
Okay, and the public service will confirm this?
Yes.
Okay. So your rationale from going from 2,000 to 2,800 is that you will have a net new emergency service road only for emergencies for the 1 in 47,000 year incident when there are all three
If all three crossings could be
Crossings.
blocked, yeah,
So in that event, there would be a road to get in and out
correct.
on this proposed crossing. And so the trigger, I got a little, I was writing 8.2.2C.
I actually have,
Robert?
yeah, I have it written
And
out here.
then
for-
It was here on my
8.2B.
plan, so.
So what is the modification to what is before us today that you are seeking?
There you go.
I have it written out so that I can have it.
And can that modification be distributed, Mr. Clerk, to Public Service as well? Is that in order?
Yeah.
As long as it's in order?
And also the TrainFo system will be in place, and I've heard it's been modified to even get better as well, so. So again, that system is still in place.
We also have the predictive,
Yeah.
possible for the, what's it called? The lights changing green in time for the emergency services vehicles. That's, it's possible. We saw it at Community Services. Okay, so I'll read it out. Is that okay? If I read it out? So.
Yep.
Third emergency condition, Alexa agrees with the condition for third emergency access. As this was discussed with Winnipeg Fire Paramedic Service, if Alexa ever planned to exceed over 2,000 units, however, the intent was access from a third collector road, especially Dawson Road, in the event Marion or Spears was blocked. Following discussions with WFPS since October 1st, Alexa is requesting that clause be modified. Alexa would suggest 8.2.2C be adjusted as follows. Up to 2,800 building units may be permitted in the planning area in Phase 2, provided that the condition 8.2.2B has been met and a paved at grade emergency vehicle access road connecting to Dawson Road has been established to allow target emergency response times to the planning area to be achieved. I have semicolon and. I love the semicolon, but I don't think and's a complete sentence.
We're just meeting what's in the existing one.
Pardon me?
We're just, because it will replace C, there's an and because there's a D as
So
well.
it is at the right place, okay. Okay, so this is your rationale for why you think 800 net new units are
Viable within this
okay.
area.
It seemed to be the primary concern of the public service. Your rationale, you've already stated it, but in terms of setback from rail, I heard, Susan, you said that it's only when it's adjacent to the rail yard. We just heard one where FCM guidelines did not apply because it was not an adjoined piece of land.
Correct.
Is that like true of title or?
That is, in the FCM guidelines, it states that it is where you have a shared property line, is where your setback is.
There aren't different rules for yards versus lines or something like that?
Correct.
Yes.
There are?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
But Susan, you're saying that the FCM guidelines have the
Always,
yard rules,
they always refer to a mutual property line, Counselor.
including yards?
Yes.
Yes.
So that seems to be, I guess, rebutted from an FCM road guideline perspective? You're there, are you?
Yeah.
100,
We believe so. And the fact that all of their concerns can be addressed as well. Like the biggest one seems to be noise and vibration, and we have a study that shows that vibration's not an issue, neither is noise, not in the area that we're proposing to be redesignated.
So on the policy front and on the, I guess,
On a
possible concern front, you have,
Exactly.
what's the study? It's expert advice? Is it
Dylan
Yes,
Engineering,
it-
Dylan Engineering did it.
Dylan,
okay.
prepared by Dylan.
So the engineers say that's not going to be a
Yes.
problem?
Yeah.
Done based on noise, the noise study was done based on sensors and sound.
Right.
Yes.
Listening in.
Yeah.
And then your other argument on the setback relative to M3 is that it's already there in the existing secondary plan for some?
Yeah, for the M3, the uses that are on the west side of Dawson Road are very much in keeping with the uses that are on the north side of Marion, where we have a 150-meter setback. So we're asking that we match that same 150-meter setback from the uses on Dawson Road, on the west side of Dawson Road.
Okay, so I'm looking to see if this matches the council logic already approved. So we already approved this plan. This plan already has M3 within 150-meter setback from M3.
From
Are both those statements true?
M3, yeah, M3 zoned, but M1 and M2 uses on an M3 zoning.
How do we know those are the uses?
So I actually talked to Chad Brick that owns Eastside Collision, which is right on the corner there. He amalgamated, he bought that, remember there was that oil plant that burnt down a few years ago? He bought that excess land. He's expanding his, he's doing an expansion to his collision center by another 10,000 square feet. He had he's amalgamating the lines, and he's also got parking for vehicle storage on the site. And he said if you wanted a letter of support, he would support the, because again, his uses are not M3. He can fit an M1, M2 use for what he's doing.
Okay, I'm trying to compare apples to apples here. So you're talking about the current use versus the zoning? You're saying current use right now is M2?
Well, yeah, he's doing auto collision repair.
Okay, rights go with the land though, right?
Yep.
Okay.
And again, he would be prepared to, I mean, I've talked to him about getting it rezoned for himself, but he said like his uses are not there. And he amalgamated lots to expand. Right now, his uses are a car parking lot for vehicle storage and his thing, so.
Okay, back to council logic. Council said yes to residential 150 meters away from M3. Is that statement true or not true?
Yes to
Said three from
three
Marion.
lanes with M1 and M2 uses.
M1
That
and
statement is
M2.
true.
M1 and 2 uses?
On M3 lands, yes.
M3
True,
land?
yes.
Is there any M3 allowed in the secondary plan?
Within our.
In our development,
Yes.
No, no.
we want to reduce the industrial.
Okay, right. Okay, so, Councilor Mays, are you following? I'm trying to see if we're comparing apples to apples.
Yeah.
So, you say we've already done 150, and that's your argument for we should be allowed to do it again?
That
That's
one
a sound
piece,
argument?
yeah, for that one piece, not going from the others on the east side of Dawson Road. We still want to keep the 300 meters from the east side of Dawson Road.
You still want the setback?
Yeah, we're
So you're saying
still,
you're
we're still keeping that
You're still
setback
keeping the setback.
from Dawson Road, on the east side of Dawson Road.
However, you would like a net new reduction in setback, which has also been approved by council in the past,
Yes,
based on 150 foot from M1 and 2 uses.
M3
M3
lands
uses.
on Marion, on the north side of Marion.
Okay, Councilor Mays? Like, I'm just like, are you,
I have questions.
does this make sense?
Yeah,
To you?
totally.
Okay. Okay, right, we have it in writing, what you're asking for. So the administrative report, as you see it today, you only want this one change?
Yep.
Otherwise, everything's good except for this one change?
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you. Good points to bring out. Can you walk me through again this, because the planning staff had said, well, we want this, we had wanted this condition around emergency access, but we think the developer and Winnipeg Fire Paramedic has sorted it out, I'm paraphrasing. Oh, I liked that map you had up there before. But anyway,
This one here.
and I'll probably go and squint at this. Walk me to, walk me through the two existing accesses, and then you're proposing a third emerge vehicle-only access. Where exactly is that?
So we have there are, it sort of needs to be talked about from the outside in. So we have 3 rail crossings, 2 on Marion, 1 on Spears. So we have an access point on Marion and the access point on Spears. And then we're proposing having an emergency-only access from Dawson Road to where Spears becomes Ibrahim Diallo at that corner that goes across the Sprague line. And that would be an at-grade, controlled access for emergency vehicles.
I get back to the microphone?
Thanks, and it's, so, just trying to get the mechanics of it. So
Yeah.
it's outside, so the first 2 intersections are blocked. So this gets you out beyond the blockage at Spears and,
Yes, because the closest station in, what's the name of to the south? Sorry, my brain has stopped on me.
Oh, Windsor Park?
Windsor Park, thank you. From Windsor Park Station, they would be able to access, go out to Lagimodiere, access, come in on Dawson Road, and then access this from Dawson Road to, into the neighborhood through this emergency access,
If Spears is blocked.
if Spears is blocked.
Okay.
Or if Spears and Marion are both blocked.
so it would then connect Dawson and,
Our development
right.
Yeah,
It
for,
would- it
for
would
for
at-
emergency.
At Ibrahim Diallo? or
Yeah.
at-
Ibrahim Diallo, yeah, Ibrahim Diallo.
Okay, I think I'm with you.
And that's only if, again, that's for emergency access only.
Okay. So what is the objection with the public service? I've got this, the rationale, Dawson Road connections previously supported by WFPS, PPD Public Works, and DASZ 30-2020 process. The current proposed unobstructed wording is more onerous than originally intended. Can you explain that?
That was,
My
the original wording had grades separated.
grid separation.
So we would have to build a bridge for $30 or $40 million to get 800 units?
Okay, so this is the,
Or sorry, unobstructed, not grade separated, my apologies.
right, so it's unobstructed. Is there a rail running through this third line?
Rail running through where our access point is?
The Dawson Road one?
Yes.
emergency
Yeah,
service
that's a
Dawson.
Sprague line. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so there is that. That's the 1 in 40,000 chance. The scenario where all 3 are blocked.
43,667.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, because Spears would have to be blocked, both Marions would have to be blocked, so then they would have to come through there.
So just logistically, so the new emerge access would, how does that not cross the rail line? I'm
It
just-
does.
It does.
It
We're
does.
saying it does, but that it would still be functional if the other 2 access points were closed. It's a third access point if the other 2 access points coming in from Marion and coming in from Spears were blocked, they'd be able to come in from that side.
Okay, so we're presuming the train isn't so incredibly long that it would block this as well.
what's the all 3 scenario, right?
Yeah.
Well, there's the all 3, and there's also just ensuring that if there's a backup on Marion as well, then this would give them, that, like, by traffic, for traffic, then it would give them the option to come in on that one as well.
Generally speaking, yeah. Okay, and how does that work? I guess there's a wayfinding that says emergency services vehicle only,
And we're also looking at doing actual gates so that and working through those details with emergency services and public works to ensure that this meets everyone's standards.
and this every sprinkler thing, what does the industry do? This is,
No, most apartment blocks have to have sprinklers in them. Just when you build smaller condo, like townhouse pods of maybe 4 or 6 units,
yeah,
they don't have to be sprinklered by code. So we're not, so I've told people, whatever you build, you have to
Oh,
sprinkler.
okay.
It's part of the secondary plan. They have to have it sprinkler.
okay, so you're saying that in addition to all that, because there's only larger multifamily,
Yeah.
and they will all be sprinklered, there's that much less risk of.
Or
What?
even if it is townhouses, it'll still have to be sprinklered.
Yeah, so whatever residential is built there has to have a sprinkler. So if you're going to build a 4-pod townhouse condo, you'll still have to have it sprinklered.
And that's because of the secondary plan?
Yeah.
And the odor mitigation is also part of the secondary plan?
Yes.
Yes.
That we have to put notices up on the roads that there is smells and sounds.
Well, I know 150 meters was not going to affect the smells. Being a Windsor Park resident and longtime St. Boniface resident, so I don't see that as material.
But we're over 300 meters from the, again, on the other side of Dawson Road. So,
So one exception.
yeah.
You're seeking the one net new exception.
Yeah,
You had it
that's-
before,
yeah.
you want another one.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Okay, are we hearing from fire paramedics separately, or is that, if we come back to ask questions to the admin, we could then ask?
You have Chief Schmidt in the gallery in case there are questions.
Okay, but he's not in delegation. Okay,
We call this administration.
so it's now that,
I just don't think I have any more questions.
okay.
For them?
Well, I'll have a question for the chief at some point, but it can wait. Okay,
For the applicant.
thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, that concludes those registered in, for support. Just turning to the gallery now to see if there's anyone who wishes to speak in support of this matter. Noting no one. Okay, next up is in opposition. First I have registered is Tom Jansen.
Welcome, Mr. Johnson. You've got 5 minutes under our new rules to speak to us, but we can always grant an extension.
Okay, well, I'll keep my remarks brief. Good morning, everyone. My name is Tom Jansen. I'm a registered professional planner, land economist, and principal with Civilians LP. I was retained by Maple Leaf Foods to provide an independent planning opinion on the proposed SPA, its potential implications on Maple Leaf's current and future operations, and its consistency with the city's long-range planning policy. I'm joined today by Kathleen Sullivan, Maple Leaf Foods VP of Government and Industry Relations. She'll speak after me. In short, the proposed amendment reflects a substantive change to the current plan, representing a 40% increase in the number of permitted units, and the second amendment to the secondary plan, the last being in September 2024, seeking greater residential density before even a single unit is being built. At the same time, the SPA is also seeking to redesignate a portion of the employment lands to enable expansion of the residential area eastward, closer towards Maple Leaf, other existing industries, and their CN rail facilities. Maple Leaf has obvious concerns, which it has expressed directly to the mayor, the ward councillor, Economic Development Winnipeg, and the developer, about the increased likelihood for land use conflicts arising from more residents living in closer proximity to its facility. Moreover, Maple Leaf has valid worries about the precedent being set by successive secondary plan amendments of this nature that erode the supply of employment uses originally envisioned in this area and the potential impediments to future industrial investment and development created by the proposed increase in residential density. Recognition of the potential land use conflicts between residential and employment uses and associated mitigation measures is a key component of the enforced secondary plan. However, this proposed amendment seems to elevate the potential for land use conflicts without any commensurate mitigation strategies or measures. Under the goal of city building, Policy 6.31 of our Winnipeg directs the city to designate employment lands within the urban structure to accommodate forecasted job growth and advance economic development in both the city and region, while mitigating incompatible land use conflicts to provide a stable operating environment for businesses and to promote community health and safety. Correspondingly, Policy 3.2 in Complete Communities specifically notes that the public markets, as a major redevelopment site, should accommodate a significant amount of employment lands. To quote directly from Section E1 of Complete Communities, due to the fact that industrial land supply is typically assessed at a lesser value than commercial or residential land, it is often targeted for conversion to more profitable land uses. Once conversion occurs, there is no longer a viable business case to convert these lands back, While there's little value in maintaining the designation where employment uses may no longer be viable, such requests should be assessed carefully and with due diligence. In Maple Leaf's view, based on its significant recent investments in their plant, this area continues to be a vital and viable employment area. Reflecting the due diligence required to redesignate employment lands, Complete Communities outlines specific policy directions intended to protect the city's existing and future supply of employment lands and generally discourage their conversion to other uses. As a planner, I wholeheartedly support residential intensification. As is, the secondary plan already enables significant density while striving to achieve a delicate balance with existing and future planned employment uses. In considering this additional amendment to the public market secondary plan, my recommendation to this committee is that it should firstly consider the secondary plan in the context of its employment land policies in Complete Communities, and specifically the tests it establishes in policies 4.5 and 4.6 to evaluate proposed employment land conversions. These include demonstrating that the proposed use would not adversely affect the overall viability or desirability of the large employment area or other surrounding existing uses, that the proposed use will not result in land use conflicts, that there's a demonstrated need for the proposed use and no other sites that could accommodate it, that the lands will not be required over the time horizon of the bylaw for their designated purpose, or that the subject lands are deemed unsuitable for employment uses within or beyond the bylaw's time horizon. Secondly, I'd recommend that the committee consider the city's broader vision for the public market lands, and the important industrial area it sits within. Thirdly, I think it's incumbent on the city to carefully assess the impact on existing neighboring facilities like Maple Leaf, who have made significant recent investments in their operations with long-term expansion plans at stake. Fourthly, the city should give further thought to the city's long-term strategy around its employment land supply and how that supply aligns with its broader positioning around economic competitiveness and investment readiness. And finally, if the SPA is approved, consider the implementation of additional conditions or measures to mitigate potential foreseeable land use conflicts from arising. That's it.
Well timed.
Well, I have a what?
I have one you go ahead and I'll.
Well, just the last statement was consider other measures. Like what?
Well, typically in these sorts of things, obviously it's setbacks and buffering requirements. There could be disclosure requirements and purchase and sale agreements. I'm just thinking off the top.
It's all there.
It's all there through the land title requirement.
Well, I don't know about the land title requirement, but there was going to be big billboards up.
Yeah, big billboards, but I don't know if those have to be there in perpetuity.
They have to as part of the secondary plan.
And then, other examples might be, engaging with some of the industrial owners directly on some of the building design measures, more specifically that could be made to ensure that, that those conflicts are mitigated and that you're not inundated with resident complaints down the road as could happen in these sorts of examples.
We're not inundated with residential complaints now.
Well, the development doesn't exist today, so it's hard to anticipate, right? But there is,
But I mean,
the risk is there.
Like if you talk to the neighborhood, the surrounding neighborhood within like a kilometer, maybe 500 meters, maybe a kilometer, they might be complainants. They're just not complaining because they accept.
Sure.
Just on employment.
Sure.
Employment lands.
Yeah.
How many employees does Maple Leaf Foods have?
I'm going to look to Kathleen for how many employees do they have?
And
1,900 at that plant today.
how do they get to work?
Combination, transit, car. I don't know the modal breakdown of their.
Transit car?
Yeah.
Be nice. I would presume, shouldn't presume. I'd like to know how many get there by car, how many get there by foot, how many get there by transit, and if they have a sidewalk to get to their place of employment.
Okay, I'll let Kathleen speak to that one.
Yeah, I mean, that comes to mind. I'm just
Yeah.
thinking about like the long-term viability of the business in the area. Like this particular business needs employees, right?
Yep.
who may or may not choose to buy a car. Okay. I guess that's it for me for now. Yeah.
I guess, I mean, the use of the land has shifted over time. I mean, it's what it's called, market lands, right? I mean, I don't remember Maple Leaf being here at the original hearing on this. I could be wrong. We've been over this terrain a few times. I guess, I mean, this land has been sitting pretty much dormant since the late 70s, I would guesstimate. I mean, at some point, there's a theoretical argument, sure, to maintain the employment lands, but isn't this sort of the best option we've had in decades for this land?
I mean, the secondary plan does allow for a mix and includes employment. I think what's happening with this additional amendment is, getting closer to Maple Leaf Foods, which I think is probably one of the biggest industrial users in the city. They've got a 12-acre site that has obvious impacts on the surrounding neighborhood and bringing residents in closer proximity to that. I think there's a concern that it does create higher potential for conflicts between those users.
I understand that argument. Yeah. I mean, I also have to say, I spent about 18 months of my life immersing myself in a debate around the Housing Accelerator Fund and fourplexes. And the input I got from corporate sector was, we need more housing and, suck it up. And if people in your ward don't like it, they're NIMBYs, they're climate change deniers, they're this, they're that. So I have to say, it's a little difficult to sit here and be told, well, we don't want people moving too close to us here. Well, she said, yeah, that sounds familiar for what I listened to for several years in my ward, and the response was deafening. So from anyone in any corporate capacity. So, I mean, people have land rights, people can assert their private property rights. I get all of that, but I got to say that it's a little late to the party, I guess, would be my point. Okay, thank you for your ongoing efforts.
Thank you.
And if there are no further questions, on to the
I'll
next. Oh, sorry, yes, we have Ms. Sullivan here. Sorry, that's on me. So, next, just the next delegate, please.
Okay, yep, that'll be Kathleen Sullivan in opposition to the matter.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Kathleen Sullivan. I'm the Vice President of Government and Industry Relations at Maple Leaf Foods. Maple Leaf Foods is an iconic Canadian consumer packaged good company that produces and sells meat, poultry, plant-based proteins under various brand names, including Maple Leaf, Schneider's, Greenfield Natural Meat, Lunchmate, and Mina. In addition to being a food processor, we are also very proud of our reputation on the sustainability front. In fact, Maple Leaf, back in 2018, announced that we were the first scale protein company in the world to be carbon neutral, and we continue to put our sustainability objectives front and center as we advocate for public policy that benefits the environment. Maple Leaf Foods operates 19 plants across Canada. However, our largest plant is actually located here in Winnipeg on lands that are adjacent to Public Market's major redevelopment site. As noted in our written submission, we do have concerns about the proposed further expansion of residential dwelling units on Public Markets from 2,000 to 2,800 and the requested reduction in setbacks. Our concerns are not for Maple Leaf Foods. Our concerns are, in fact, for the very good people who will be looking to rent or purchase dwelling units on that land. And the reality is that they will face in moving into properties that are adjacent to large industrial scale operations. We believe that the additional residential dwellings and the conversion of employment lands to high density residential lands to accommodate that increase will result in residential units being built far too close to heavy industrial lands, including Maple Leaf Foods' La Jamaudière plant. This proximity of two incompatible uses will, we believe, result in significant conflict. For years and decades even to come, conflict for honest residents and for good businesses who all want to be able to exist in this city. Maple Leaf Foods is a large-scale industrial plant, and it is simply incompatible with residential dwellings. I think because of the location of the plant and where it is sometimes deceptive how large it actually is. The plant has existed on that site since 1964, just over 50 years, and as previously noted, it employs 1,900 people. The plant covers 500,000 square feet. To provide you with some perspective, that is over 11 acres in the floor plan of the plant itself. And it houses within it 4 unique processing facilities: ham boning, ham processing, raw bacon, and pre-cooked bacon. It is essentially 4 scale food manufacturing plants under one roof. The plant has been expanded over the years since it was first built, most recently in 2008 to add ham boning, and again in 2021 to add the Bacon Center of Excellence, which is our pre-cooked bacon facility, which manufactures close to half the bacon that is consumed anywhere in this country. Like other scale industrial facilities, Lage is a very busy plant with significant movement of people and trucks throughout all hours. The plant operates around the clock with 2 production shifts and 1 sanitation maintenance shift each day, 6 days a week. Each day, almost 2,000 workers move in and out of the plant. In addition, between 100 and 125 refrigerated trucks arrive carrying raw pork from the Canada Packers hog slaughter plant in Brandon, and they leave carrying finished product. These trucks enter and exit the plant at Dawson Road. In addition to the movements of truck and people, the plant emits noises and odors from its operating processes. This is quite normal and natural for a food plant. And I would say that this food plant isn't just important to Maple Leaf Foods. It is, given its size and scale and its product makeup, one of the most important food processing assets that you will find across the food system in Canada. The equipment necessary for food production and to operate a scale food manufacturing plant safely and effectively inherently comes with noise, and given the nature of the product, it comes with odors. We believe industrial land use is important to the city's economy, and that companies like ours have a very positive impact on the city. Maple Leaf has a long-standing commitment in the city of Winnipeg, and over the years we have invested considerably in the plant, with $280 million investments in the last 20 years alone. In 2024, the plant paid $4.3 million in utility costs to the city, almost $700,000 in municipal taxes, which is an amount we expect to grow.
You need an extension of a few minutes?
Is that possible?
Sure.
Thank you very much.
Well, I guess we have to vote on that, so it's possible, but we do.
No,
How long?
A minute?
Sure.
A minute.
Take 2, how about?
Thank you.
Move 2 minutes.
2 minutes, all those in favor? Aye. Carry on.
The Lagimar plant is also an excellent source of work for Winnipeg. Of our 1,900 workers, 1,700 are unionized under the UFCW. We also pride ourselves in our commitment to the community, and we have made donations of almost $1 million in the community of Winnipeg in recent years. We simply want to ensure that we can continue our operations unencumbered, and we hope that citizens of Winnipeg are able to reside in areas, residential areas, where they can equally live unencumbered. We think it's important that we not make decisions that ultimately pit honest residents against honest businesses. Residential employment lands both play important roles in the city. But residential developments must be located in areas that are appropriate for that use. And it's our submission that they are simply incompatible with the scale, the large-scale industrial facility that you see at our Lagimodiere plant. We do appreciate that there are setbacks that are included in the planning proposal, but not all industrial plants are the same, and this really is not just one of the largest industrial facilities. In Winnipeg, it would be considered one of the largest industrial food plants in the country. We believe that the reduction in proximity and the increase in density will create disruption for more people as more people exist and more people are located closer to the plant. And we believe that that will make the plant subject to increased complaints and make the city also subject to significant increased complaints, and ultimately pit, again, decent, hardworking Winnipeggers against decent, hardworking industrial and commercial entities. I'm very happy to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Speaker.
Yep, go ahead.
Mr. Chair.
I'll have one, I'll have a couple, but go ahead.
What does carbon neutral mean?
Yeah, so Maple Leaf Foods is a member of international standard-setting body for carbon reduction. In our case, carbon neutrality, we have set our own carbon reduction goals for our Scope 1 to 3 emissions, and until we reach those, in the meantime, we purchase offset credits from credible sources that are attached to agricultural operations in order to meet carbon neutrality in the short term.
So what is that? Is there any public information on this?
There is.
It was part of the presentation?
It was part of the presentation.
There is, in fact, there is absolutely.
Pretty detailed answer, actually.
Yeah, we produce a sustainability report every year. I'm happy to forward it to you and share the information that we have. We have, over the years, been very public about our commitment to environmental sustainability, and we've also been very public about our emission levels and about our emission reduction goals.
Okay. How do your employees get to work?
Our employees would get to work from a combination of transportation, public transportation, so the bus system in Winnipeg, and there would be some employees who travel to work using cars. There's two entrances to the plant, one off of Marion Street, and that is where our main parking is, right in front of the plant. We also have leased a parking lot that is just adjacent to that for spillover parking. And then there are bus stops both on La Jamadière Boulevard and on Marion Street in front of the plant.
So the proponent has said that they have an engineer stating that the vibrations will not be an issue. You're saying that there will be an issue. Is there a way for us to try and reconcile that as a committee? Like, which is the truth?
Well, I don't, I'm not an engineer, and I don't have the report in front of me. We don't have residents in the neighborhood at this point, but based on our experience running a large industrial facility, it is our perspective that having residents as close as is proposed, as opposed to further away as was originally proposed, is going to cause discomfort for the folks who move into that area.
Do you have any indication as to how many people call to complain now?
Across Maple Leaf Foods, I don't have stats in front of me. I can check with our consumer line to see if they have them.
Well,
we do receive, there are other residential neighborhoods around the plant where we have received concerns about the noises from the plant. So this is something that we do have to deal with for sure.
Okay, noises from the plant. Are you aware the secondary plan has like net new provisions within that go above code in order to protect residents from sounds and vibrations as part of the secondary plan?
So it's my understanding that those provisions relate to the setbacks.
No, they relate to the buildings themselves.
Oh, in terms of windows and?
In terms of if you're in your house, you will not be subject to bad smells. You will not feel the vibrations. So I guess I'm wondering what other measure there might be, because the complaints you're getting are from people that don't have these protections that are built into the secondary plan that's built here.
Well, I think the main measure that, would protect prospective residents is the distance from the industrial facility. That would be the main
But
thing.
that's not protecting me. I'm a Windsor Park resident, and I can, like, all the residents of Winnipeg are impacted by these operations.
I don't understand the point.
The point is, these residents are protected from your operations. If these buildings are to be constructed, they're going to be protected from the smells. they're going to be protected from the vibrations. So it seems to me all the other residents are the ones that are impacted, not the ones that
So
might be here.
So the assurance, you are certain that the measures that we'll put in place for the dwelling units that are being built will be sufficient for the sounds and the noises?
Well, that was my question originally, was there's an engineer saying the smells and the vibrations are not going to be an issue. It's an engineer who wrote that. It's getting into expert knowledge territory. I'm a layperson.
You know, I suppose I am not a layperson. I'm certainly not an engineer, but I am somebody who represents a food manufacturing plant. And our advice to to the Rail Committee right now, and ultimately to City Council, is that building residential units close to large-scale industrial facilities is setting everybody up for discomfort and complaints down the road. All we can do is share that advice. Forgive me. But based on our experience, we are acknowledging that the nature of our operations and the products that we produce are not conducive to residential dwellings being close, which is, of course, you know, where the plant was built in the first place. And I certainly take the point that over the years, land use changes. Having said that, the plant can't change. The plant is going to continue to be the plant.
It's going to expand, right?
It could expand. It certainly has capacity to expand, and it has expanded. I am not here with any plans for expansion, but that certainly is a possibility down the road, only in the sense that the area exists for it, and so should somebody make that decision, it's possible. And, you know, I think I will be clear with you, I won't be here in 5 years. I don't know if you'll be here in 5 years. I don't know if the developers will be here in 5 years. But right now we are making decisions, or you will be making decisions, that will affect the makeup of the community, business, residential, in the future, which is a great privilege and obviously a great responsibility. And I very much appreciate that you have to hear advice from a lot of people about what might happen in the future for folks who don't live in dwellings that don't exist. And the best that you can do, and the best that any of us can do, is come forward with experience or advice to say what we think we are setting ourselves up for or not. We are here based on our experience over 100 years running food manufacturing plants. That's what we do. That's sort of where our expertise is. And we know what the plants are. We know what they look like. We know what their operations look like. And we're very realistic about that. And we do not want to set people up or for an experience that they don't understand and didn't anticipate, even if they were told, whether in writing or on a billboard. These are very large, very busy, very active facilities. And that would be the same of any large-scale food processing facility. I imagine other manufacturing facilities as well. And I appreciate the challenge that you have and how difficult it would be to try to make decisions based on speculative information and advice on what a future might look like. Again, our advice based on 100 years in manufacturing is that the island, if you will, on that planning map has now moved too close to a scale industrial facility of the kind that we operate. And that the folks who are going to pay for that, if you will be the folks who live there, because it will be an experience that they didn't anticipate. The vast majority of people, for I think understandable reasons, don't go through large-scale food processing facilities. They may imagine what it might be like, but I think the reality may be quite different for them. And, you know, we come here to offer that as our experience, our advice, our opinion, recognizing you obviously have to balance it against lots of other needs. I will tell you, I mean, the plant can't move, we know that. And you know, we built a food plant in London, Ontario, We opened it in 2022. That would be the largest investment in food processing in Canada's history. That was $800 million. If we were to build that plant today, it's almost the same size as this plant, it would be well over $1 billion. It's just prohibitive. There's no opportunities to move the plant. So the plant has to continue to exist there, and this is about what are we thinking in terms of coexisting, and what are the boundaries and the measures that we consider to be acceptable for coexistence, and do folks really, and I know we can tell them, but do folks really understand what it means to live beside a bacon plant?
Well, just, you're speaking, like, it's just like there's, speaking on behalf of future residents and deciding what they would want, and also acknowledging there needs to be residents that work at this facility. It's just, that's what I'm struggling with.
Maybe, can I?
Go ahead.
Here's an argument one could make, which is, I mean, and I'm not going to say you're trying to look altruistic here. You may want to expand the plant, and if you got 800 more units closer to you, that's probably going to be a trickier sell for Maple Leaf. That's fine. I don't think you need to.
Last round wasn't very
Need to hold back on that.
Sorry.
I think it's a question for the admin, and before I come back to you, and this might be Platt, or it might be Steve, or Clark, or your colleague whose name I'm blanking on, McKinnon, thank you. Complete Communities 2020, 2021, one of the appendices, we're going to restrict further development in the Holden District. The Holden District, very small residential area in St. Boniface Ward. Thank you, Steve's nodding. It touches on Marion. You could even make that argument if you were here speaking, saying, my God, we're not even that far away from this thing, Holden. Marion, Lage, some other stuff, right? So why were we looking to restrict intensification in Holden? Because they kept complaining so much. It's right in the text, like, well, this is coexistence, right? It's a difficult coexistence. So it's not loopy to come in here and suggest that sometimes we restrict. I mean, that was a restriction on the neighborhood, right? Hey, you property owners in Holden, you're probably, we're not looking to intensify here. So we're not necessarily looking to do that today, but it's I think a fair point from the opponents to say, 2 moves down the chessboard here, when we go to expand, you're going to have a lot more people, and you do give weight to these complaints. You do. Look, you did over here on Marion, I don't know, it's a mile away or 2 miles away. I don't know how far away it is, frankly. So, I mean, that's the argument I'd have been making, frankly, on Holden. So what do we say to that? I mean, is that just too far down the chessboard, the sort of, I don't know, James, I'm picking on you here a little bit because I think you were involved in that Complete Communities. It wasn't the infill guidelines, I don't think. In fact, I'm sure of that, because Devin would jump in here. I think it was Complete Community.
I think McKinnon has something here.
Sorry, yes, you are correct. There's the policy that restricts residential development in the Holden area. I think I would say our evaluation here was looking at the reduction in the setback to the uses in that triangle that are identified, which, as the applicant indicated, are not what we would typically consider M3 uses. So that was something we considered here. The plan area is designated as a major redevelopment site, which indicates it is intended for residential intensification. And one other thing about the Holden area, I believe that there may not be a full range of municipal services in that area, so that is another reason for restricting development further there.
Okay, thank you. And I know Councillor Ellard and Trustee Palmquist put some money in there, got a park upgrade, I think, in Holden, so it's, it's not that it's being ignored, so, okay, so that's good context then, that we do sometimes restrict where there have been complaints. On the other hand, so it's balancing this coexistence. It's the point you raised, and How do you balance that out? So any comments arising from that rather long stream of questions from me?
I mean, I think there was a balance that was originally proposed, and that would have been the original, and forgive me, I'm not a planner, so I may get the terminology incorrect, but the original development plan and then the amendment that was approved last fall, I think, struck a balance. It struck a balance in terms of having high-density residential and having employment and commercial activities, and those employment and commercial activities offered a buffer to what is a significant industrial facility. So I think there was a balance that was not just on the table, but approved by City Council, and that it would appear that stakeholders had a level of comfort with, given that it did pass.
So,
Yep.
so specifically, why is proximity an issue if vibrations and smells are, let's say there's an engineer that wrote a report and they're an expert in this? Like, what are the other arguments against proximity? It seems to me everyone else is impacted who does not have this level of code, which is net new to the building code, in order to protect the citizens that I think you're saying you're protecting the future citizens that don't realize what they're going to be moving into. Wouldn't that be true of any house anywhere in the surrounding area? Like, should we be mandating these net new anti-smell, anti-vibration codes to all the buildings in the surrounding area? Because those operations impact the general area. They don't just impact the adjacent area.
I don't think it is either realistic or reasonable to expect that you would retrofit homes that had already been
Could be new
in
homes.
existence.
Could be new. That's what's happening.
I don't know of any new homes that are being built that close to the plant. If there are some, then that's on me and my apologies, but I'm not aware of any.
2,000 units that are approved, and there's 2,800 units on the table.
Because the
Those will have the protections, but no other protections exist outside of the area.
Look, you know, at the end of the day, we're looking into a crystal ball into the future. And my crystal ball is somewhat fuzzy. I'm imagining your crystal ball is somewhat fuzzy too. And I think that everybody is here trying to do the best thing for the community and the best thing for business and also for residents in the community. If we're wrong, if you could build, I don't think you could, but because I'm at the plant regularly and it is noisy, and I can stand on one far side of the plant and smell the bacon for the other side of the plant. I think that I believe, based on my experience, we believe as a company that folks who are built in the island, as it's been called, I think we'll have problems being that close to industrial area. Now, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that won't materialize, but maybe it will. And if it does, then we've got very uncomfortable residents. We're going to have very uncomfortable councillors, presumably an uncomfortable mayor's office, and an uncomfortable business and maybe other businesses in the area. And it seems to me the decision today, respectfully, is trying to find what is the balance of identifying residential growth in the city, of identifying ways to make the city creative and interesting through using lands that may be vacant, and also doing it in a way that tries to not set up conflict for the future. It would be our submission that the previous plan that was approved last fall struck a balance. It certainly struck a balance that we were comfortable with, to the point of not being here before. For us, the balance has been shifted, and we believe that building that close to a large-scale industrial facility is not a good idea. It's not a good idea for whoever is going to be there. It's not going to make much of a difference to us because we're still going to exist. Will there be more phone calls? Yes. And you'll probably get more phone calls. But at the end of the day, I mean, the plant is still going to be there. So I appreciate the job and the challenge and the responsibility that you have in front of you, and that's to try to make decisions today that are best for a future. And this is the advice that we can offer you based on our experience running this sort of facility.
Just one more.
Sure, and that answers my earlier, aren't you late to the party question, because I didn't have concerns about the noise from the party until now, so that's fine.
Right, so that's sort of the tangent I want to take, is that adjudicated today is 800 net new units. There's already an island of 2,000. To my knowledge, your environmental license already says that your operations are not to impact residents. How is the net new going to materially change? Because you're already impacting residents,
So,
like outside of this area.
yeah, so, I mean, I'm going to make a general statement here. The more residents there are, the greater number of complainants you could have, and the closer people are to the plant, the more likely they'll have something to complain about. So, you know, yes, this is where we look at, you know, 2,000 residential units built far from the plant, or 800 more built closer to the plant. And at some point, I would say, I will tell you internally in discussions, there was, you know, concern about, okay, which I think natural for any business. Okay, so there's going to be a residential development next to an industrial plant. The same way, if I lived in a residential neighborhood and somebody wanted to build an industrial plant next door, I'd have some anxiety about it. But for us, the tipping point has come with the movement of those units so close to the plant.
All right, fair enough.
Okay. All right.
So good.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you very much.
It's been one of our better intellectual hearings, I have to say. Hopefully we'll continue the momentum here with the further speakers.
No one's impugned anyone's motive.
No.
Hasn't been any names called.
Next up.
Okay, that concludes those registered in opposition. Just turning to the gallery to see if there's anyone who has not registered who'd like to speak to the matter in opposition. I will note no one. Okay, next up is for information. We have no one registered for information.
Well, we should welcome former Finance Minister Friesen, I think, is up there. So good to see you here. Thank you for coming. Hopefully you caught our earlier thank you to Andrew Smith. You can pass that along for some funding that's finally working its way through the system. So
With no
good,
complaints.
thank you. With no, yes, thank you. Okay, if that's
Yep, no one's.
all that intellectual content, we're at the end of delegations. All right.
Correct, yeah. Just gonna look to the gallery one last time to see if there's anyone for information. Noting no one. Okay, now we have questions from the public service.
Councillor Mays.
Can we get the chief down here then? Just, I think we owe it to ourselves to just nail this down on the original condition versus the sort of agreement versus the request for change from the applicant. So let's just, given it's a health issue here, let's make sure we get our life safety. Let's make sure we've got this straight. I don't think I've got other questions. I've got some comments, but I could save that. So, okay, Chief, if you can, Chief Smith, welcome. Can you just shed some light then on the, is your department okay with what the applicant put forward with that wording in 8.2.2, thank you, C, with the business with there'll be a paved, unobstructed, no, I think they wanted the word unobstructed out of there, a paved access point. If you can give us your thoughts on that.
Sorry about that. Details matter.
Yes.
So in short, yes, we've had additional discussions with the developer subsequent to that initial piece coming through. So we are in agreement with the emergency vehicle access that has been proposed and was shared earlier today on the screen. So again, this will be a access that is dedicated to our vehicles for entry and exit from the area, primarily entry, of course, to respond to emergency incident.
Okay, thank you for that. Is this unparalleled in the city of Winnipeg, or do we have any other examples of
This will be the first dedicated emerge access road within the city of Winnipeg into a residential type community. These do exist in other communities across North America. We are familiar with some in the Phoenix area where communities that are actually somewhat similar to what we've designed here in the Waverly West area with a lot of circular road networks. And these types of roads can be used. I see the councillor nodding. These types of roads.
I was more shaking the head at the circular roads, not nodding at them.
Well, these types of emergency access roads can be utilized in communities like that, where that design exists, to save us time. So I'm actually quite pleased to see this coming forward as the option.
Okay.
And it's something that we should be looking to for the future in other developments. I will also add, and we've spoken with our colleagues in planning about that desire to see that in the future. The other piece I'll just build on from delegation is the sprinkler piece. So this community will be the first in Winnipeg, and this is important, where every residence where people are sleeping, either during the day or at night, will be fully sprinklered. And I think that's very important and a good thing, and something that we should be looking at going forward as well. And it's being done it's being done under the current provisions and requirements, not because a fire paramedic service has come forward and say, you must sprinkler.
Okay, thank you. On any matter, not necessarily this matter.
In these other jurisdictions that have dedicated access for emergency vehicles, are there any cases where there is transit allowed in those? I'm thinking of these circular streets and the servicing of transit problem.
The ones I'm familiar with, that is not the case. They're dedicated to largely fire and ambulance vehicles.
Okay.
Any that I've seen have not been utilized by any other public service.
Yeah. Well, okay. Well, I know the case is predicated on emergency services, so.
And was Mr. Scaletta right in saying, I think it was Mr. Scaletta, look, if the original idea was an overpass that would have cost millions upon millions of dollars, and this is a much more, you're satisfied with this, but was the option to be some sort of overpass?
That was never on the table. What we simply put forward was we need to see some alternatives for uninterrupted access. So we weren't specifically talking overpass or underpass.
I may have separated.
I am aware that at some point there were discussions about that many years ago.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
It's been through a few rounds, this one.
A few rounds.
So I guess the public service generals, do you understand what the proponent is asking for in the handout?
Yes, I think, given WFPS's support, the only change we would recommend to it, just rereading it, is removing the word in phase 2. So it's explicit that up to 2,800 dwelling units is the maximum, not that there could be a certain number in phase 1 and then a certain number in phase 2.
That's good.
So scratch phase 2?
Yeah, just remove the words in phase 2, and I think that would.
Okay, and then the applicant stated, I believe, that they are in agreement with the report before us today with this text amendment. Is that your understanding as well, from what you heard?
Yes.
Okay. So, okay. I think that's it for my questions of public service.
Yeah, I have some comments, but that's when we vote on this. So, yeah, thank you. I think that's it for my questions for the public service.
Okay. Mr. Chair.
Sorry. Yes, correct. Rebuttal is now offered to the applicant.
Okay.
Oh, you're welcome.
Are you declining?
I'm like,
no?
No, thank you. Thank you for hearing or giving us a
And
chance to hear about here.
do we have Ms. Russell with us there?
Yes, she can come back in again.
There.
So we'd just like to note a couple of points that were brought up. First is within the secondary plan, it does say a significant area is to be employment. With this change, we are still at 54% as employment lands plus 14% for commercial. So residential would only be 32% even with this change of the overall area of our secondary plan. With the conflicts, I believe the councillor has noted that we already have in place in our secondary plan mitigation for odor and noise within the building construction, and it is on our, because it is in our secondary plan and in our zoning agreements, it is on the titles that they are required to have these and that everyone is to know that they are in a industrial area. We are not reducing our 300 meters from Rothsay, and the distance to Maple Leaf is over 450 meters away, so it's well beyond the 300 that would be in there. If the lands on the east or on the west side of Dawson Road are rezoned, the measurement would be taken from the east side of Dawson Road in the future if, as Robert had noted, the owner of the lands is looking at doing that rezoning. So then it would become that boundary as well. There was a notation on different conflicts. The movement of trucks and employees. At no point do our roads, our internal roads, connect directly to Dawson, which is one of the main points for their truck access, so we would not be in conflict there. And on Marion, it is the main thoroughfare, so we're connecting up to a major road, as with everyone else. We're also providing housing for the hopes of having some of those people who, the 1,900 employees, may wish to move in closer to where they work. Susan, I don't know if I missed anything that we wanted to talk about.
No, I think you covered all the points there, Jackie. Thank you.
And if you had any other questions, we can answer those.
At the risk of reopening the public hearing process, we'll let you do your rebuttal. Go ahead.
I just want to say I've been doing industrial real estate for about 25 years now, commercial real estate. And the trend is, and as I've taken some of the planners around the city, they're wrapped around the perimeter highway. They're the industrial guys that we get calls for 9 times out of 10 want to be outside the city or on the perimeter highway because they don't want to be in the heart of the city because I have a half-ton truck. I don't like driving it down in the city as much as they want to drive a semi-truck down the city. So again, the industrial lands, we have over 50 acres of industrial lands. I haven't sold one lot yet. I've got guys buying residential, no one's buying industrial. So I just say that is kind of like what we have, I think we have enough there for the employment lands. I think we just need more residential to feed those employment lands. Thank you.
Okay, all right. I guess then, thank you. This has been a long, sorry, I did have one question just for clarification, which could probably just be posed. We did amend within the past year. That was to change the mix in some of the parcels, wasn't it?
That was to allow us to go to 2,000 units within the area west of the park. East of the park.
East of the park.
Okay.
No, west of the park.
West of the park.
The original one was west of the park. Thank you.
And I take it you don't have any issues with
That's a good question.
the planner, Ms. McKinnon's
Striking phase 2.
suggestion, striking phase 2, which seems to me to make a lot of sense.
No issue with that whatsoever.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I think it's,
Time for motions?
yeah,
I'm ready to move a motion.
mercifully, we don't have to do variances
It's
and
only one.
rezoning here, it's all in one, yes. All right.
There's a big parcel of land. So I'll move a motion, Councilor May?
Yep.
Yeah. So I move that the Winnipeg report of the Winnipeg Public Service be taken as read.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I move that the receipt of public representations be concluded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I move that the recommendation that Winnipeg Public Service be concurred in with the following amendment, the one that we got textually striking phase 2. Mr. Clerk, do you want to read that?
Sure, I can, I'm just correcting planners if I have this correctly. Okay, so in recommendation 1A in Appendix B, 5.2, Section C, titled Section 8.2 amended, delete the words "in Phase 2, provided that the condition in 8.2.2B has been met, and an unobstructed emergency access has been established to allow targeted emergency response times to the planning area to be achieved," and then we're going to replace it with the following. Provided that the condition in 8.2.2B has been met, and a paved at-grade emergency vehicle access road connecting to Dawson Road has been established to allow target emergency response times to the planning area to be achieved, and that'd be the replacement.
I believe, was the in phase 2 struck?
Yeah, that's what we're deleting from the first part.
Okay, yes. Sorry, do you mind reading it one more time?
Sorry?
Do you mind reading it just one more time?
Sure. Okay, so the amendment will be in Appendix B, Section 5, and then 2, and then Section 5, that's 2.C, titled Section 8.2 amended. So this is going to be delete the words, and this is the quote, "In Phase 2, provided that the condition in 8.2.2B has been met, and an unobstructed emergency access has been established to allow target emergency response times to the planning area to be achieved, and here is what we're," and then, end quote, "here's what we're going to be replacing it with," quote, provided that the condition in 8.2.2B has been met, and a paved at-grade emergency vehicle access road connecting to Dawson Road has been established to allow target emergency response times to the planning area to be achieved, and.
Yeah, that sounded correct. Thank you.
Beauty.
Okay. So I move that Winnipeg Public Service, the recommendation of the Winnipeg Public Service be concurred in with the amendment that was read by the clerk and forwarded to the standing policy of property development.
And supporting reasons,
Did I call the question then, supporting reasons?
First we call the question, then we do supporting reasons.
That's odd. I know.
clearly not what this says. This is, it's got moved by councillor that the recommendation, et cetera, and then supporting reasons. Then the next, so I mean, it's 6:01 after, it doesn't really matter to me, but
So-
I do think the supporting reasons are,
Right, okay, well, Mr. Clerk,
Just a moment, please.
I mean, you're the chair, so.
keep waiting for a vote where we have people in agreement but different supporting reasons, and then there's some, which you might say is exactly why we need to do it this way. We vote and then we get.
Right. Was part of our script not amended since we've been around?
But that might have been zoning stuff,
It was variances, I think.
or variances.
I believe,
I don't think,
I think our template might just be off. So yeah, we can do supporting reasons now and then carry the motion, and then call the question.
okay,
So we are to do supporting reasons now?
Correct, yes.
okay.
Okay, well, so I think this is a large, complex development. I think the proponents done their work. I think the many issues that were many issues that were considered in terms of fire safety. I heard that if this development moves, if this development is approved, that we will have the first at-grade dedicated emergency services vehicle crossing road, and that would be a first and a plus, and also the first community that will be fully sprinklered, which would be a first and a plus for fire safety. If this is approved, it will allow for the eventual construction of much-needed housing, 2,800 units specifically, which is a not inconsequential number of housing units. I believe that we need a variety of different housing types in St. Boniface and Winnipeg, including those types of housing that, you know, may may be more affordable than others, and perhaps the very site itself will allow for some affordability in terms of the residential units that are being proposed to be constructed there. I know that the St. Boniface residents generally are supportive of housing relative to other uses in the ward. I know that, and I'm not convinced fundamentally not convinced that there's going to be a material difference in the number of complaints from a net new 800 adjacent to a site that is protected by environmental controls, to buildings that consider sound, buildings that are sprinklered, buildings that have a special access for emergency vehicles. It seems to me that is outside of the scope of the net new is less relevant, the net new residence is less relevant to the overall impact of the industrial operations in the vicinity to the outside of the community. If anything, it's gotten me thinking, like to the chief's comment, that perhaps all construction should be sprinklered, or perhaps all circle-style communities should have emergency services dedication built into a lane so that people can receive emergency services on time. So I think a lot of work's gone into this. I think a net new 800 will be good for housing. I think a net new 800 will not result in a substantial adverse effect to the industrial area, given that all of these provisions are built in. If anything, we should be building in these provisions in the surrounding area to protect those future residents that are going to live in St. Boniface and don't know about the smells and the dusts and the odors. So those are my supporting reasons.
Okay, thank you. Well said. I'll put a few supporting reasons on. I'll support Councillor Allard. That was about as intellectual as these hearings get, so my thanks to all those in delegation and to the city staff. Really, it's. I mean, and there's always a tipping point. There's always a dividing line here somewhere. And so Maple Leaf is certainly entitled to come and say, we were fine with the 2,000. We are not fine with the 2,800. That's completely within their rights to say that. Surely there must be a point where we would be over-densifying. I think if Mr. Marquez or his agents were here, they would probably say, wait a minute. You remember you said we were trying to build too much on Taylor there, so there is a point here, or is there now? Have we so completely changed our philosophy that there's no such thing? So, I mean, that's a fair debate to have. And it is a 40%, the math was great, 40% increase, but it's also shedding some use that was going to be employment land. So it's not just converting the 20-story tower into a 28-story tower, right? It's more complicated. There's some use that's coming out. So I'd be inclined to support that, and I think Mr. Scaletta has made this point many times over the years, like, you know, it's not that we're opposed to selling some of these, we just can't move the product, so whereas we have all this demand for residential, and the city wants residential. I mean, it does strike me a bit as, I mean, the neighbor is saying, well, we have concerns, and the neighbor, Maple Leaf, may want to expand at some point, and we had that whole discussion of the city does listen to complaints. We listen to them from Holden, but by the same token, I gotta say, I mean, we had people from my ward down here saying, can you just not densify quite so much on St. Anne's Road and have so few parking spaces? Oh my God, there's gonna be all this parking on the street now. It's an externality. We'll have much less access to our homes. And that kind of gets blown past. People here don't want to hear that. So I kind of feel like, well, a little hard to come in here now and have people say, oh, there's this great big development, but that's too close to me, so I don't want it. Well, that's how we're approaching things. We're trying to emphasize residential development. So the neighbors are allowed to come in and make objections, but I'm not going to listen to this neighbor because it's Maple Leaf more than I'm going to listen to people who are in a residential neighborhood. It does have some overtones of, and Shindiko, I think, has been involved in both these, of the airport debate, right? People saying, Recall from the late Mr. Reimer saying, "Do not kill the golden goose that is the airport. The more you allow residential near it, the harder it's going to be to keep up a 24-hour airport." Council voted to proceed. I guess we'll see what happens. Maple Leaf could well say, well, you know, we're just going to, we're out of here. We're off to Cedar Rapids, Iowa, or something. If we get too many complaints, that's the balancing act. You try and make sure that doesn't happen, but we took that step at the airport, so I think we're going to take it here as well. Final point, some of my colleagues are all in favor of densification until it gets tricky in their own wards, and then they aren't. So I'm getting along well with Councillor Allard this term of office, and he is consistent. I kind of admire that. Don't always agree with him, but he certainly wanted to say, no, there's going to be some heat on development in my ward, but I'm going to vote in favor of this densification, just as I would in your ward. So I appreciate the consistency, I have to say. So it is Councillor Allard's ward. This has been a very long hearing. I won't belabor the point, but I admire Councillor Allard's consistency in saying, I'll take some of this in my ward, you know, I'll put up with some of the controversy myself, because I expect other councillors to. So be supporting the motions, and those are my reasons.
Thank you.
Just for, upon review, it is the case that it's, in this certain scenario of SPAs, it is separate. So first, we just need to call the motion, call the question for the actual, for the amendment and the forwarding to property and development, and then we'd have to call a motion for the
Okay.
supporting reasons you provided.
Yeah, that's not, yeah, that's,
A little
okay.
different, yeah.
Okay, so we'll call a question first on the,
And to be, Chris,
to be,
to be clear, to protect against any type of procedural issue, I move that the recommendation of the Winnipeg Public Service be concurred as amended and as read by Mr. Clerk. So that's my motion.
And forwarded to property and standing policy.
And forwarded to the standing policy committee on property and development.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that's carried, and then,
For supporting reasons, I will leave my reasons as they have been previously stated.
mercifully, so will I, saving a good deal of time, so that's,
So moved, I guess.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary, that's carried.
And I move that the public hearing with respect to this application be concluded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that is
Okay.
carried.
Please note that the committee has made a recommendation on this matter that will now proceed to council. No further representations are permitted, and all persons registered for the public hearing will receive notice when the matter is to be considered by council.
All right,
I move adjournment.
thank you. Mr. Clerks, are you back here at our next meeting, or are you into your new role?
It depends. Maybe.
Well, good. Well, thank you for the work you've been putting in here, and hopefully we'll see you again. And thanks to the city staff. That was
Sorry,
quite
we
clear.
just need to call the question for the adjournment.
Motion to adjourn. Thank you from Councilor Arlett. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned.